You ready? All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Bennington Select Board meeting of Monday, April 13th, 2026. We are the third floor multi-purpose room at the Bennington Fire Facility on 130 River Street in Bennington. My name is Tom Haley. I have the honor of chairing this board, and I will ask my fellow board members to introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Nancy White.
Good evening, Sarah Perrin.
Hello, Jim Sullivan.
Good evening, my name is Jackie Matz.
Good evening, my name is Clark Adams.
And I'm Ed Woods.
Thank you very much. Also with us this evening is Nancy Lively, who is taking excellent minutes, and plenty of people whose names I should have written down. We have David Conwell, who is handling Jonah's job this evening, making sure that the Zoom portion of our meeting goes through properly. We have Nick Cave, who is assisting with that, I'm assuming. And we have, I'm sorry, from Cat TV, I've spaced your name. Tabor Coulter, who is handling everything for Cat TV, making things go smoothly. And also this evening, we have Assistant Town Manager, among other things, Shannon Barsati. So we'll begin this evening, as we always do, with the Pledge of Allegiance. Clark.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. And Jim, would you mind reading our vision statement, which guides our work?
Sure. Bennington is a welcoming, engaged, inclusive, resilient community where everyone, regardless of identity, shares in our vitality and benefits from an outstanding quality of life.
All right, thank you very much. Next up is reorganization. Every year at our first meeting in April, it is necessary to reorganize this board and elect officers. So I will begin that by asking for nominations for vice chair, please.
I'd like to nominate Jim Sullivan for vice chair.
I will second that.
Jim, are you willing to serve another term as vice chair?
I think so, yes.
All right.
Thank you, Jim.
Any other nominations? All right, hearing none, all in favor of Jim Sullivan serving another year as vice chair, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Okay. And any abstentions? All right, Jim, the floor is yours.
Thank you. As vice chair, I guess it falls to me to run the brief section of the meeting involving the election of the chair. Is there a nomination for chair?
I'd like to nominate Tom Haley, please.
Ed has nominated Tom. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Clark. And I guess I should ask you, too. Are you interested in serving?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other nominations this time? Okay, all in favor of Tom Haley serving as chair for another year, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
No.
Okay, 6 in favor, 1 opposed. Tom has been elected chair. And back to you, Tom.
Tom, if I could have 1 second after reorganization.
That would be
It's
now.
related to reorganization, yeah.
Yep.
I just wanted to sort of call out to the public and to the board that we had a pretty rough start in the past year. This board I saw come together pretty nicely over the last 6 months or so, and so that's why I was motivated to motivate the 2 guys that I did. And I want to call out to members who were not in favor. Other nominations are the way that we handle those sorts of things. That's what elections are about. Thank you.
Move on to the consent agenda.
May I say something?
Briefly, sure.
I voted no for the reason, in the 2 years I've been on this board, there are several important topics I've tried to get on the agenda, and after 2 years, there's some I still haven't gotten on the agenda. And these are things, important issues for Bennington that we should have discussed.
Thank you. So now, on to the consent agenda, which consists of the minutes of March 23rd, the warrants, and the licenses. I'm going to, if it's okay with everyone, pull out the minutes, because I wasn't at that meeting, so I will not vote on the minutes. So could I please have a motion to accept the minutes of March 23rd?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Any comments on the minutes?
I have sent in my corrections. I've sent them in, yep.
Oh, you sent them in?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I have one comment, if I could.
Okay, go ahead, Clark.
I'm going to find the page here, forgive me. On page number 10, lines 3 to 5. I think the gist of that comment is not being communicated here. Basically, we're discussing people need to report their speed calming concerns through the system that we put in place. So, it says people need to be involved, kind of leaves things hanging. It's important that the public communicate to this town through their program, their traffic calming concerns.
Jackie?
I don't have a correction to the minutes. I'm just wondering, Sarah said that she had emailed some changes in, but I didn't see those. I don't know that if we're voting on those changes, I should know what they are.
Are they reflected here, or are they not? That was also my question,
Oh,
Jackie.
They were they were my words.
Are they reflected here?
Yes.
Then
So the copy that we got includes your,
They're my words, yes. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
okay. That-
All right. Anything else? All right, so all those in favor of accepting the minutes of March 23rd as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
I can't vote.
Almost aye.
All opposed? And I will abstain. Thank you. So now we have the warrants and quite a number of licenses.
Yes.
So for the purpose of discussion, could I have a motion to accept the warrants and the licenses?
Make that motion.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Clark?
Hi. Page 7, item number 405353, and I guess the line number is 818515, lead line replacement. I'm wondering, is this part of the federally funded program that we've been involved in for the past couple of years? And is this something we're reimbursing MSK for, or how is that payment being made?
This is, can you say the number again, Clark, of which, what the number was?
It's check number 405353, and within that, there's, looks like 5 different items, but the second item, which is
The lead line replacement.
18515.
Yeah, so these are for MSK, yes. These are all grant funded.
Okay, so it's a continuation of the ongoing lead replacement program for the homes that we've been discussing.
Yes.
Okay, and as a sidebar, when is that ending? I thought that was quickly approaching its end point.
It is getting close to the end, but we still have a few. This is like, these are some of the final pieces that are being done.
Okay, so it's a bit of meandering, so we need to tell our folks out there, please, if you haven't gotten involved, do so sooner than later.
Yeah.
Thank you. And one other one. Again, the next page, item number 405369, the levee repair. I'm confused, what exactly is that?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear what you said.
Okay, item 405369.
5369. So
On
the
page 8.
SLR International.
Right.
Okay. I did ask Dan about this before he left. So this was this levee repair final design. It was a full structural investigation of the levee by the Brooklyn Bridge area and a plan for repairs. So thankfully, structurally, it's fine, but we will need to address some of the spalling in the concrete. So that's what that paid for, was that because that was identified as a potential problem, and that's what that final design was for.
I guess I've got to look, because when I think of levees, I don't recall seeing a levee as I understood what I've seen in New Orleans down there,
Yeah, a
so.
little different.
Yeah, so, all right.
Flood wall.
Well, thank you. Those are my only questions.
Tom, I hate to do this, but that confused me. If I said this another way, same item, levee repair, final design, it's the design of the repair?
Yes.
Thank you.
That is
As long
correct.
as the emphasis is on the right syllable, I'll understand it.
I just wanted to make sure people understand that the levee, it's structurally intact.
Yep.
You know, there's just minor repairs that are needed.
Anything else? All right, seeing nothing, all those in favor of accepting the warrants and the license applications, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And any abstentions? All right. Thank you very much. Now on to public comment. At our first hybrid meeting, that means I have something additional that I have to read. All right. This meeting is a hybrid meeting, which means that some members of the public might be attending online using Zoom. The webinar ID to join the Zoom meeting is 895-8796-9602 and is also listed on the agenda. Those participating online may raise their hand to be recognized during those times that public comment is allowed. When recognized, online participants are required to abide by the same public comment rules as those who are here in person. Those rules are to keep public comment on topics that are of benefit to the community but do not appear on the agenda, to please keep your comments to 3 minutes or fewer, and it is not a time for open questions and answers. However, if a question comes up that we can answer very briefly, we will do so at the end of the public comment period. So, do we have anyone online?
We do have a raised hand online, yes.
Okay, well, you know what? Let's just dive right into that. Who do we have?
They're identified currently only as iPhone.
Hello?
Okay, there you go. Could you please identify yourself, name
Yes.
and town of residence?
Sam Racino, Bennington, Vermont. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you, Sam.
Okay. All right, I'll get right into it. I hope this Zoom meeting continues on. I know it's on trial for a month. This makes this transparency for the rest of the Bennington residents and surrounding areas. I just hope that they educate themselves. We have tried in the past with listening sessions, and that has faltered. I hope this doesn't falter. I really want this to go because, as you know, this worked very well during COVID. We got through it. It's not really hard to do, even though on the Facebook page it wasn't really clear that it was a Zoom meeting. I think that has to be reworded a little bit with the IDs, so this way people can, those that are at home or want to speak, they're allowed to instead of going to in person. Secondly, remember, there's no snow, but there's no parking from 2 in the morning to 6 in the morning, and that doesn't go until the 15th. So you still will be ticketed if you're parking on the streets of Bennington from 2 in the morning to 6. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Sam. Now to the folks that are here. Let's start with Tim Payne, who wants to speak on the school budget.
Good evening. Thank you. My name is Tim Payne. I'm the superintendent of schools at the Southwest Vermont Supervisory Union and a resident of Pownell. This evening, I'm asking the Select Board and our community to support the revised elementary school board budget, which will be voted on tomorrow, Tuesday, April 14th. The revised budget for next year represents a 0% increase over the current year's budget. Most folks understand in the community that a 0% is in fact a cut to services to students as we anticipate increases in wages, benefits, and utilities next year. By comparison, the average school budget in Vermont increased over 4% this year. School budget funding is not the same as town budget funding. I hear that constantly as I walk around Bennington. In Vermont, the law is if a town approves a school budget, the legislature must pay the bill. The reality is that our local property taxes pay for increases in school spending across the state of Vermont. Under the current system, there is no reward for spending less on your students, and there is no penalty for spending more. Currently, the legislature, which I met with members this morning, is considering how to pay for education in the 26-27 school year. If nothing changes, they make no changes to the current foundation or the current formula how to pay and how we pay for school, the next elementary school board budget will increase 4% based solely on wages, health care, and utilities. If the legislature approves the governor's request to buy down the tax rate, which they did last year, that increase could be double. The current funding system is fundamentally broken, in my opinion, and drawing new districts, which we are watching in the Banner and the Digger and WCAX, does not address the following realities. There are fewer children attending K through 12 in Vermont than 20 years ago, and that trend will continue over the next 5 to 10 years. That is the reality of our state. The other reality is our properties, and I am a proud resident of Bennington for 20 years and now currently of Pownell, do not have the capacity to raise taxes to sustain the current system. That is not going to happen. My own personal taxes are looking at 12 to 14 cents on the value going up for the next school year. That is unsustainable. Again, I encourage members of this board and the community to support your local schools and to vote in approval of the revised elementary school board budget and its 0% increase. That voting takes place tomorrow in person. I encourage you to check your local polling locations and times, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you very much. Jack Rossiter Munley, Bennington BCMCC Benefit Concert.
Yes, thank you so much. Jack Rossiter Munley, Bennington, Vermont, and I am here to talk about this wonderful event. You can find additional posters over by the front door. The Bennington County Multicultural Community Center is joining with Bennington College and the Vermont Arts Exchange. They have graciously invited us to turn a concert into a benefit concert for the Multicultural Center. It is going to be one that features Sal Mamedowski and his Americano band. It's going to be a combination concert and dance party happening this Wednesday up at Bennington College in the Greenwall Auditorium. The concert itself will start at 7 o'clock. Doors will open before that, and we are also going to have food available made by members of the local refugee community. That will include Afghan and Venezuelan cuisine. So we hope to see you all there for some good food and some dancing and, in my own highly biased and very humble opinion, a great cause. So it's a benefit concert for the Multicultural Center, 7 o'clock, Greenwall Auditorium, up at Bennington College on Wednesday, April 15th. Hope to see you all there.
Thanks, Jack. Andrew Hall, Community Bike Rides.
All right, Andrew Hall, Bennington, Vermont. Here on behalf of the Bike Hub, your favorite nonprofit bike shop in town. This is the time of year we start up a few different group rides for the community. So we have a few different rides you could attend. We have one that just started last week. It's every Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. This is a kind of gravel ride, road ride, 15 to 20 miles at a 10 mile per hour pace. We do that every Tuesday at 5:30, open for anyone to attend. We also have community cafe rides, a partnership with a local community cafe. These are on the second Saturday of every month, starting at noon. Very family-friendly, kind of cruise around town for about 5 to 10 miles and finish at the community cafe. And that's the second Saturday of every month at noon. We also, a new one for this year, we're offering these Sunday Epic rides that are the third Sunday of every month, kind of a full-day adventure, typically starting and ending at the bike shop. So again, time of year to pull the bike out of the garage, and if you want to ride with some new folks, check out some new routes, we have 3 different group rides to choose from. Thanks so much.
Go ahead, sir.
And one question for you, Andrew.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So for the bike hub, if people are digging out their bikes and they want to get a tune-up, or if they have an old bike that they want to donate, where should they bring it?
So bring it right to the shop. We're here, bring it to the shop. We're here Wednesday through Saturday, 10 to 6. Yeah.
Where's the shop, Andrew?
160 Benmont Ave, so kind of in the old Benmont Mill building. Yeah. So, thanks so much.
Thanks.
Thank you. Next up, Ken Millman on the Riverwalk.
Ken Millman, Bennington, Vermont. My phone is screwing up a little bit. Hold on. All right. Thank you. The Walloomsac River Walks originated as a vigil honoring Emily Hammond, who tragically lost her life on the Riverwalk. The Unsung Hero Award embodies the very essence of the Walloomsac Walk, rooted in the belief that ordinary individuals have the power to achieve extraordinary things. This year's award recipients exemplify that spirit. In April, we honor Mother Earth by cleaning the Riverwalk. We will have gloves, bags, picker-uppers, and we will make Bennington look better. And this year's Unsung Hero Award goes to Vicki Lamprin, who also makes Bennington look better. If you see the quilts, the quilt project, among other things, you know Vicki's work and contribution to the community. There's a lot more, and I urge you to come on Saturday at 9 o'clock at the parking lot near the skate park, and we'll honor Mother Earth and Vicki. Thank you.
Thanks, Ken. And Aaron Williams, Community Cafe. Yeah, sure.
It's shorter. For me. Hi, Erin Williams, Bennington, Vermont. I am here to talk about the Bennington Community Cafe. We exist every Saturday at the St. Peter's Episcopal Church in the Parish Hall, 1:30 to 3. If you haven't heard of us before, I think that you should come on Saturdays and have a great time. And if you really want to get involved, you can come volunteer with us. We're really hoping, as the weather gets nicer and school gets out, to have a lot more families. And so if you've got a teenager that's looking for something to do, please send them to us. Come and enjoy the food, come shopping at our boutique, make some art, play some music, but also get involved and volunteer. You can reach out to Jack and myself at benningtoncommunitycafe@gmail.com. Thank you.
Thanks, Aaron. Is there anyone that wanted to speak that did not have the opportunity to put their name on the sheet? All right, very good.
Can I just, in response to Mr. Estino, these hybrid meetings are the standard. They're not a testing. I thought he said he's under the impression this is a trial at these meetings, and my understanding is this is not a trial. It's just the way meetings are to be held by statute.
We voted to do these for 4 weeks in a row, and then to make a decision whether to continue.
I
with the hope that we were going to continue without interruption at the end of those 4 weeks. I know we talked about that for quite a while.
Right.
I think that Clark's point is well taken. They shouldn't be sort of labeled as trial. These are the first 4 of hopefully no issues going forward, but if we discover issues, we have the right people to resolve them. Is that fair?
Right, yeah, again, by statute, these meetings are required to have access to the public.
No, actually, Clark, only the state level meetings are required in the statute, but I think it is best policy. I do agree that we should do it going forward.
Okay.
So hopefully we have no hiccups along the way. All right. Next up, we have Chris Bates, and I see Bruce Lee Clark here also from the Energy Committee. They have an idea to present to us regarding youth members on the Energy Committee.
Thanks for having us tonight. Anyway, Chris Bates, Energy Committee Chairperson, Bruce Lee Clark, Vice President, or Vice Chair. Anyway, we have a couple of things we'd like to ask of the board, and I'll turn it over to Bruce, and then I'll finish up.
Right. As I think it says something about it, yes, we are looking for the capacity to appoint 2 youth members to the Energy Committee for a number of reasons. We have been going around, we've been actually looking at other energy committees in the state, and many of them have youth members, and we would be looking to have 2. One who might be a rising senior, and the next one a rising junior, if you know that terminology. That way, there's rotation around them, but there's always at least 2. For a number of reasons. One, because it has been my experience, having taught for a number of years at the Tech Center, that high school students bring a lot of fresh ideas and new ideas and energy and enthusiasm to anything that they buy into. Secondly, it seems to me it strengthens a kind of community representation that needs to be represented in a way that is not currently. Bringing in a younger generation. It also helps us build trust with that and engagement with that community of people, and fosters intergenerational collaboration. That one I think is particularly important. There are not as many places in our community where we can bring people of my age and people in high school age together to solve problems and to think about ways in which we might respond to the needs of this community. They also, many of these students are when we're talking about trying to help people find ways to make their homes more energy efficient, these are these are kids who are living in those homes. And they know what it's like to have wind blowing through the windows at times. I know that because I have taught those students. It also aligns with a broader youth engagement that's happening around this state, giving them a voice in shaping their future. And finally, it helps us support long-term sustainability, and hopefully with the intent of trying to, over the long haul, deal with just exactly what Tim was talking about and reversing the aging trend in Vermont and in New England. So I would urge you to allow us to find a process by which, whether it's we interview and you appoint, well, I would think you would appoint, that's what I would like, you would appoint, allow us to interview candidates. We already have one candidate who is very willing and wants to be on this committee, and we can find others. I'll let Chris tell you a little bit more about what we would want from you tonight. because we're really moving into that time frame of adding more members.
Thanks, Bruce. So we are looking to have these youth members, full members, not somebody that just shows up and is part of the committee. We want these youth members to be part of our committee, to be able to say, yes, I have a say in something. So like when we vote on our minutes or when we vote on little things that we do, we want them to be able to say your vote counts for our committee. Because if we don't have that, I'm afraid that they're not going to be engaged. They may not even want to show up, but if we have them as a full partner in this with us, I believe that they will actually enjoy coming and being part of it by going back and saying, hey, Mom, hey, Dad, guess what I just voted on today, whether it's something important or not. So we're looking for that type of commitment from these youth members and from the board to say, hey, I think that's a great idea. And we are asking you to give us a decision tonight, if that's possible, which I think it might be. So that's what we're at. That's what we want to do. And it'll be good for the community. I also believe that the word will get out that, hey, did you know the Energy Committee in Bennington has youth members? So I'm really excited about it. So hopefully you guys are too.
Remembering that all of the Energy Committee, among a number of other committees, we don't make policy. You folks make policy. It's not that kind of a committee. So we're not going to be we don't spend town funds. Mm-hmm. We can't commit town funds. We don't do that. We don't. So that there's really, as far as I could tell, there is really no reason why these youth members can't be essentially the same as me and any of the other members except younger. Mm-hmm. And that's the point.
Tom, if I may.
All right. Everyone on the board with questions? I'll start on the end with Ed here.
So this is just me reiterating, Bruce, something that you just said that I think we really need to make sure it's heard. This is a group that is advisory only. This is not a policy-making or group. That's the difference between committee and board. I think it's important that we recognize that. And to your point, Chris, about voting within the committee, those are very important votes that a committee needs engagement from its own so that it can conduct business. You will be putting forth decisions that you make on your committee to this board. You want your youth members to have participated in those recommendations
Absolutely.
Fully. So I wanted to make sure that the board and the public understand that. Thank you.
Try to my right. All right, Clark.
My question is, these will be 2 additional members. You're not going to fill 2 of the current positions with you?
Additional.
Okay, thank you.
That was easy. Thank you.
Thanks, Clark.
Yeah. Thank you. I think this is a really forward-looking idea, and I generally am in full support of this. I had a couple questions. When does your committee meet?
First Wednesday of the month at 7 o'clock at the, what do we call that building? It's the conference room of Jim's old place, the BCRC. I just forgot the initials. I've been working with initials.
Everyone just knows it as Jim's old place.
That's right. The BCRC.
Great.
Yes.
Great, fantastic.
On South Street.
Have you, maybe this is putting the cart before the horse a little bit, but have you thought about how you would accommodate youth that might have some transportation challenges?
We'll give them a ride.
Great. That sounds excellent to me.
Easily done.
Great. Yeah, so I absolutely support the idea. I think the board has also recently made some moves to bring youth into the process of understanding how municipal governance works and being able to participate in that process a little bit. One thing that I think would be that would fit in with that other initiative that this board has taken, the Youth Council, would be to allow the Youth Council to conduct some of the interviews of their youth peers and make recommendations or be part of that process as the Youth Council. Is that something you'd be open to?
Sure.
Yeah, that's
Sure.
great.
Sources of where, think about all of the different, if you look at the names of the people who serve on committees for this town, where do they come from? They come from all over. And so I don't think we should be putting up barriers to participation in municipal government. As a former law teacher here in this town, law and government and civics teacher, that's precisely what I would always be pushing the students. And I taught civics for students from all over the state, trying to get them engaged in their local community. Yeah. That's really critical. Okay?
Great.
So yeah.
Great.
Anywhere.
Thank you for bringing this idea.
Yeah, I'd like to say the same. Thank you very much. And Clark asked my first question. Thank you. So I just wanted to note, as Ed did, I think that this is an advisory committee. The main lifting that the Energy Committee does is getting information out to the public and the community on how to save energy, how to conserve energy, how to be more energy efficient. And in my experience of working with energy committees over the years, the more people and the more energy that you can involve in that effort, the better. And getting young people involved is, I think, a great idea because they have a lot of energy and because there really isn't an issue I can think of that's more critical to their future and the future of our community as energy. So I applaud you for bringing this forward, and I think it's a great idea, and we'll support it.
Good. Thank you.
I was concerned to see this on the agenda tonight because Bennington voters voted on this last year at town meeting, and they voted no. One of the charter amendments we asked our voters to vote on, do you want to amend the town charter so that 16 and 17-year-olds in our town can vote on ballots, serve on the select board, and be appointed to town boards and committees? 724 people said yes, 1,418 voters said no. So by a 2-to-1 margin, our voters said no. They didn't want 16 and 17-year-olds in our town getting involved in the different things like this. I can understand you have a passion and you'd like to do this, but what does this say to our voters? What message does this tell the youth? I mean, we appoint people to your committee. We appoint the people to the boards and the committees, whether it's a commission, whether it's a council. And when I was at one of your meetings in January, at one point they asked me about this, and I said, well, I think the select board has already created a problem by supporting the Bennington Youth Council back in December. I'm afraid that has opened a door for a lawsuit. I mean, if your voters vote and say no, and the board keeps pushing it. So I really don't understand why this was on the ballot, on the agenda.
Anything else from the board? Anything from the public? I'll start with the young woman in the back. Younger than me, anyway.
Hi, my name's Avery Camarda. I'm from Bennington, and I'm part of the Bennington Youth Council. And I'd just like to say we advise, but we don't really have any real power that would make a problem. Like, I don't think they'd have pretty much the same role that we do, and it's not like we're voting on things where I think most of us, I'm the oldest and I'm 16, and it's just a great way to get youth voice out. not necessarily voting on things. Thank you.
Jack?
Hi there, Jack Rossiter-Munley, Bennington, Vermont. I just wanted to clarify, the voters didn't vote on this. That's not what the charter review was about. That was about specifically being able to vote. It was about youth voting for people in elected office. This is about creating a formal mechanism for youth to have input and not for them to be voting on policy or voting on people who are in policymaking positions. And the same is true of the creation of the Youth Council, and the more avenues for youth to be involved in the civic process, the better.
Thank you, Jack.
Thanks, Jack. One moment. Anyone else? Anyone on Zoom? Okay. All right, we'll go one more round. I'll start with Nancy.
You have Jim here.
When Brattleboro voters voted to allow 16 and 17-year-olds to vote, they're also allowed to run for select board and be appointed to town boards and committees.
Point of order.
Obviously, the same thing would have been in
Excuse me, point of order.
It's nothing to do with this.
I'm replying to Jack where he said it was just...
The policy of this board is that speakers must refrain from repetitious speech or speech that is irrelevant to the business of the body. I believe my colleague's comments are both.
Well, this was specifically discussed.
I'm sorry, can I get a ruling from the chair?
Yep, you're basically reiterating what you did already say. So I believe Jackie's point is in order.
Well, this was discussed at several select board meetings before people voted.
Jim?
Tom, I would like to make a motion to allow the Energy Committee to interview candidates to fill 2 youth positions on the Energy Committee, which will be then reviewed and approved by the Select Board.
I'll second that.
Okay. I do have one question on that, in that we will have to be altering the charge of the Energy Committee, possibly? Do you have thoughts on that, Shannon?
Can I make a new motion?
Altering the what?
The charge.
The charge of
The charge of the, why would it need to be altered with youth members?
So can I make a second motion then?
The only thing that would need to be looked at is who they are.
Yeah, I don't think
Right.
the charge
What
so
they
much
do.
is the definition of, you know, the number of people and
Yeah,
who
the number
serves
of
on the
members.
committee. So we might need to make a small tweak to that, but you could assume that this proposed action would affect that change.
Okay, that makes
Right.
me feel better.
And I can look at that,
Yeah.
you know, what that original language was if we want to include something. I also wanted to mention that there is precedent for this with other commissions. So the Historic Preservation Commission had a high school appointed to the HPC, Thomas Sheets, and he served on the HPC. And I can say from my experience on that commission that he really brought, you know, enthusiasm. He spent hours and hours and hours of research on Pleasant Street, which really led to us receiving a grant award for Pleasant Street to be a historic district. So I would agree that teenagers bring youth and enthusiasm that we need on our boards and commissions.
Can I make a second motion?
I'll hear you, Sarah. What do you?
So I'm wondering if second motion might just be to add add additional 2 youth members to the Energy Committee and request that town look at our charge for the committee and look at the wording for that. Make sure it's good.
I would alter my second for that, so if you want to alter your first.
I will accept that as an amendment to my motion to include any necessary changes to the organizing charge for the committee regarding membership.
Any further discussion on the motion? All right, then I will call the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed?
Nope.
Any abstentions? All right, we pass 6-1. Thank you very much,
Thank you
gentlemen.
guys so much for everything.
Bruce, on your age comment, Bruce, all you have to do is start later in life like I did. I still live with those kids. Can you imagine that?
All right, next, we have a review of the updated animal control ordinance. David Conwell will be presenting with us.
Good evening. I was asked to review and revise the current care and control of animals ordinance for the town of Bennington to make it more effective, to give the animal control officer greater leverage, and to provide an updated penalty amounts and fee amounts for the town. I also took that opportunity to revise the formatting and some of the language inside the ordinance just to make it easier to follow, because as a pet owner, I figure you want to be able to read this and make sense of it as quickly as possible. And so I attempted to do that by moving some things around, but the general effect is still the same. I've brought with me both the original here, my revised version that has yellow highlights showing the changes, and also this is a separate proposed fee schedule. And the reason for doing this separately is so that if the board wishes to change these amounts in the future, it can do so without having to open up the entire ordinance for revision. I did provide a memo outlining these changes. I can go back through them if the board would like, or I can simply answer questions if there are any.
What's the board's pleasure? I've read this a few times, so I'm fairly comfortable with it. It has been released. So do you want to just go to questions? Or
I wonder if it makes sense to just cover the old language and the replacement language, not the whole policy, for the benefit of the public.
Okay, that works for me. So run through the bullet points if you could, and we'll go from there.
I can certainly do that. So probably the easiest way to do this is going to be to revisit my memorandum here. I've revised the title because this is a ordinance primarily dealing with dogs, cats, and other companion animals, not chickens, pigs, cows, any other animal that might be found in the town of Bennington. Changed some of my definitions in order to make the language broader and more applicable. Have rephrased the language of what is a vicious or aggressive pet. I'll show you here that I like to you'll see here that vicious or aggressive pet has 3 elements in my revised version. And this is the original version here, which also has segments related to enforcement sort of crammed into the definition. I removed those and inserted them into the section of the article that actually deals with hearings related to aggressive or vicious pets. That definition is actually contained in this language here, but as you can see, it's easier to read if you break it into 3 elements and say, does my pet fit all 3 of these issues? Perhaps the largest change to the definitions is to remove the section referring to running at large from Article 9-4 and making it a defined term, because this type of behavior on the part of a dog, and while this definition refers to running at large by a pet, in reality this ordinance only discusses dogs with regard to running at large. But any place you have a reference to a dog running at large, it was easier to refer back to this definition. For example, in 9-4. Article 9-9 here, this is a significant change, not in terms of the effect, but in terms of understanding who is covered here. It talks about in terms of persons or other pets in the original. And I've changed this to humans and domestic animals because, for one thing, lots of livestock-type creatures that may or may not be companion animals are often victims of vicious animals. And also, not all people, legally speaking, are humans, but we really don't care if your dog bites a corporation. So we're just going to be very specific with that language there. Notably, anytime the word destroy or put down, these sorts of things were used, I've just changed this to kill. There should be no question here that when we're talking about the destruction of animal, we're talking about your pet will be killed. I say this not out of a sense of ghoulishness, but simply because not everyone understands every euphemism we might like to use, and I think it's better that the ordinance should be clear than nice to read. We've raised some of the amounts in here to refer to 9-1005, Part 3C. The original amounts here were $50,000 for the surety bond or the insurance to be carried by someone who continues to maintain a level 3 pet in their household. We've raised those to $100,000 because the cost of medical care has increased dramatically since the last time this was revised, and we need to make sure that those amounts cover realistic damages if someone is injured. Probably the most important change in effect is going to be Article 912 here, because the original provision here discusses what happens if the owner is known, but does not provide a mechanism for if the owner is unknown. And so we've created language here that will allow the town to give notice via the newspaper and public postings with a description of the pet, where and when it was found, and that permits the owner 7 days, even if we don't know who they are, if they're missing their pet, to figure that out, come to the town, and claim it before it's disposed of. We've reiterated in here that the town's fines and fees must be paid before a pet can be recovered. Now, of course, in most of these instances, the original language was similar, but not identical. Again, 916, we've pulled the waiver fees that were listed in the actual ordinance. And waiver fees are simply a way that a pet owner who admits that they've done something wrong and doesn't want to contest the issue, it permits them to get their pet back at a reduced fee because they're waiving their ability to contest that. But rather than leave those fees in the ordinance, they've been removed to this pet schedule. They've also been increased. The waiver fee has gone from $35 for a first offense to $70 because $35 simply isn't much of a deterrent effect anymore. The same goes with the rest of these numbers that have been increased. And that is the majority of the effective changes in there. A lot of smaller ones, some numbers that were not called out as numerals. Most of our ordinances have both a written number and a numeral in them, so I inserted those wherever they were missing. Made sure that references to defined terms were capitalized so that they're clear that they're defined and people can go back to the definitions, that sort of thing. So really just trying to improve the utility to the town and at the same time the readability for the persons who are going to be bound by this ordinance.
I'll start with that again.
Thank you, and thank you for the work that you put into this. A lot of questions get answered with this revision. I have one issue with it that I'm going to tell you up front is not going to stop me from voting yes or signing this, but I am appalled that we would use the word kill. I realize that you have used the word humanely before that, but you just said kill several times without using the word humanely. The proper word is euthanize, and I would strongly encourage us to put that word back.
Agreed.
For the record, the ordinance mostly said destroy originally, not euthanize. I think it used euthanize once. I'm happy to make that change.
The proper word is euthanize.
Certainly.
Hi, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for your work, David. A couple of things jumped out at me. Just look here under licensing. You know, it says you're supposed to have a tag or so forth. One of the things that I was thinking, these tags, they should be fairly brightly colored and visible. An animal walking down the street, how do you know they have a valid tag, whether it expired 2 years ago or whatever? You know, the mechanism to ensure that the animal is currently registered. And in terms of animals who violate this, who are unregistered, I don't see any references in here about, I think there should be additional penalty for a person having an unregistered animal which is involved in a vicious animal event. So I'm concerned that that's lacking. And the third element of one of my concerns is, I realize we're reaching into people's wallets, but I would prefer to have a serious penalty assigned to people who allow these vicious animals, as we've heard here in the last couple of meetings. What I saw was flagrant owner neglect of this critter that created this problem. And I'm hoping that somehow we can impress upon people that, yes, this is your animal, but you are responsible for this. And to, you know, say, yeah, he's a bad dog, here's $70 seems rather blasé.
You did notice that these go up dramatically for additional offenses.
Right, additional, but if it's my child who's bitten that first time, that's enough for me. I don't need a second offense to want that person to realize a serious transgression has occurred.
Did you have a number in mind?
No, I don't, but
He took you right to the point.
Yeah.
Well, I have no issue changing this in any way the board wants to change, but I need to know what the board wants in order to do that. Yeah.
I think the idea of a penalty directed at the owner should in fact be a penalty, and I would not object to a $150 to $200 fine for this animal. And
the $70, just to be clear, that's the waiver fee.
Right.
So you want the waiver fee to be increased to approximately what the current violation amount would be, and did you want the violation amount increased similarly?
I think so, yes. If, you know, I've had people relate to me that their grandchild is terrified of walking around our park because of a vicious animal that we dealt with here chased the child around the park, and that's been well over a year now, and this child is still emotionally scarred from it. And I don't think you can put a price on somebody scaring the hell out of your grandchild. So those are my concerns. I'd like to make sure that these licenses are visible so we know it's a current one, and that if in fact an animal involved in any of these events that's an unregistered animal, that there be significant penalties for that, coupled with an additional penalties for owner irresponsibility. And these are just my views.
Thank you.
Thank you, David. Certainly this was, I think, something that this board asked to be looked at and to be strengthened in response to some recent hearings that we've had to have for this ordinance. So I appreciate the effort that you put in there. And I appreciate Ed for bringing up the language, and others that have supported that. For the record, I also would like to see this say humanely euthanize. But my question here, I kind of have two questions, and unfortunately they sort of, I think, conflict with each other. But the first is the fee that you added, or not that you added, but that you're recommending for impoundment, $100 per day. I'm interested to understand how that compares to our costs for impoundment. Does that cover our cost? Typically, our fees don't cover our cost fully.
Yeah, and I do not know. I don't know that we have a good understanding at this point, since we haven't had a shelter all that long, as to what how far $100 goes per day. I believe that this figure was chosen with the idea that, yes, we very rarely do get all of our costs in a manner, and it was something that designed to keep you from wanting your pet stored there for more than a couple days.
Okay. That's helpful.
If you would like me to look into that and set it to something more related to the town's actual costs, I can attempt to do that.
I might recommend that we look at the cost of boarding, which is what we used to be concerned about before we had our own facility. So we were paying out money to a shelter. Whatever we're not spending now, are we replacing that with some wiggle room?
Yeah. And I think the way that you structured this so that the fee schedule is a little bit separate from the ordinance, I think is smart and would allow this board to potentially go find out that information and then adjust the fees. But I think for the purposes of expediency, I'm happy to move forward with this as it is right now.
Certainly, and as with any of these fee schedules, the board can amend that at any time. It doesn't have to. It could amend it in the next meeting and the meeting after that.
Okay, great. And so now to undercut my own point from 6 seconds ago, I'm a little, there's a piece in here for the benefit of the rest of the board. I'm looking at Article 9-12 and 9-13 kind of in collaboration with each other. But it talks about an impounded pet shall not be released to the owner unless and until all fines and impoundment fees have been paid to the town in full. I understand the motivation there. It doesn't sit super well with me that somebody that's struggling financially, or that maybe has a pet for mental health needs, or other care needs, that would struggle to pay those fees, that we would not return their pet to them. Is there a mechanism that we could waive those fees? There's just something that doesn't sit right to me there.
Well, I understand what you're saying, and there certainly is no language in here that provides that discretion. And one of the reasons that we don't provide a lot of those is because suddenly everybody has that exception applicable to them, and you end up increasing your own enforcement costs in that respect. Also, all of this is designed to be a deterrent, so the tougher it is to get your pet back, the less likely you are to let it run. So that said, if your pet gets loose and you get it after a day, I mean, that's not a big ask probably to try to get it back that first day. But if your pet's a chronic runner, then it's probably something that maybe you need it aimed at.
I certainly don't want to encourage dogs running at large and being a nuisance in the community, but personally, I would take a much harder stance with a pet that was menacing or aggressive in some way, and maybe have a little more discretion for a pet that was simply getting loose.
This is interesting because it seems that your point and Clark's sort of go against one another, which is Clark's saying that the standard penalty isn't enough for some of these animals, and you're saying the standard penalty is perhaps too much for some of these animals. So I'll have to ask the board for better guidance in order how to craft this.
If I could, somebody's little poodle getting loose and running off the leash, I have no problem with Jackie's position, but as we all are aware of, there was a vicious animal that mangled this woman's leg, crippled her for life. I'm sorry, those are not the same scenarios, and I think maybe we can put, vicious dog or threatening animal versus somebody's little poodle that got loose over at Walmart. They're not, in my mind, those are two entirely different.
Well, and the destruction of the animal is also, the euthanization of the animal is also one of the penalties here. If it's a particular, nobody's going to euthanize the poodle that's gotten loose, right? It's going to be a minimal, don't let your dog get out. Thank you for having the registration current. Take it back. Don't let it happen again. Pay your $35.
but threatening animal, somebody whose dog gets out and, is terrorizing, and it doesn't actually bite someone, but it's clearly intimidating or terrorizing the public is entirely different than that loose poodle.
Indeed, and that's why we have the vicious and aggressive pet standards in this part, is because that clearly is a vicious and aggressive animal.
And leading into Jackie's concern, I wouldn't want to hammer somebody because, their grandmother's poodle jumped out of the car.
And then hammer them every day until they can come up. If I can't come up with 35 today, I'm not going to be able to come up with 70 tomorrow.
The other aspect of this is that there's due process concerns, too. So if someone has a particularly vicious animal, we do have greater punishments in store for them, but we have to give them their day to have a hearing on it. We can't just do that out the gate and say, we've decided your animal is vicious, so we're going to penalize you additionally. So we have to walk that tightrope a bit.
I can see the stare of the animal control officer, goes down to Walmart and catches that little toy poodle running wild versus having to get her stick out and wrestle some vicious critter into a cage.
And this is where I think the discretion comes in, because that animal control officer has a lot of discretion now as to when they trigger this ordinance. Our current animal control officer has discretion as to how they trigger our current animal control ordinance, which is largely the same other than the dollar amounts and the ability to give notice to people whose pets whose owners aren't known. So in some respect, those mechanisms already exist, both in the current state and in the way that this is written.
Thank you, and thank you, David. You did a really nice job. I know it's a bit of an exercise in logical reasoning, tightening up these these ordinances. You did a great job with it. I was going to respond to Clark's concern with the tag being noticeable is well taken, but at the same time, I do know there's some issues. I mean, one is that the town clerk, I think, probably has a set stock of dog tags to choose from that are probably pretty standard without getting, more costly. And the other thing is, the tags are about that big now, which is not big on a lot of dogs, but maybe kind of big on other dogs. And if they were really big on a really little dog, it maybe wouldn't work very well. And I would worry a little bit about dog tags being too big, actually being a hazard to the animal, getting caught on something like they're through. So I get it. I think, when you get to the point where, you see the tag, it's not like you're reading a license plate. If you want to make sure the dog's tag is current and registered, other than having a larger one that's color-coded for the year, you have to look at the license number, and you're going to have to get up close to see that regardless of the tag size. So that's a problem that might not have a great solution. The fee schedule, I recognize, I don't know, David, what the right numbers are, and I think that you've increased them kind of based on inflation, which is not a bad thing to do, and I think maybe we try that and see how that works, and then if they need to be adjusted because they're not serving as a sufficient deterrent, as you noted, it's a separate fee schedule that's adopted by the board, so it's relatively easy to change. I certainly wouldn't rule that out. And yeah, I mean, I would, and I think that the document does this okay, but there really is a big difference between dogs that are running at large and the vicious and aggressive pets. I mean, I could certainly see a lot of neighbor disputes around dogs running at large if somebody doesn't like their neighbor and their dog is quite harmlessly wandering along the edge of the property calling animal control, and you have a dog running at large versus an animal that's really vicious and aggressive. And the one I think we need to be understanding and maybe talk to the owners about keeping a better eye on their pet. The other one, I think we do need to take a very hard stance on vicious and aggressive pets because they are a danger to the community. So again, I think this ordinance does a pretty good job of differentiating, but I do recognize that's a big distinction that we shouldn't lose sight of when we're dealing with these situations. And that's all I have.
Would some of that fall under officer discretion in terms of fall under officer discretion, like for the dog that wandered away?
Yes,
versus-
yes, certainly. There's nothing here that's going to bind anybody's hands to an unreasonable enforcement.
Yeah, I think this reads very well. Thank you for doing all the work on this. The only thing that I kind of wanted to mention was what Ed mentioned is just humanely euthanize, which I was pretty uncomfortable with. So otherwise, yeah, I think this is a great for animal control to have discretion with, and I'm very comfortable with it. So thank you for your time.
Nancy, anything? Okay.
I mean, I'm prepared to make a motion to adopt this, but I suppose I would also want to move to amend the fees here as part of that motion. So how do you want me to?
Well, we will approve the fee schedule separately because it is a separate item.
Okay.
So I'd be looking mainly for a motion to accept with the amendment that we're changing the word kill to euthanize. And was there anything else major in there that I think I didn't hear much else? Okay.
So I move that this board adopts the updated ordinance. Oh,
You know what, let's do that before the motion.
Okay, yeah, great.
Hi, Sarah Beth Ward, Bennington, Vermont. So I'm kind of confused. A dog can have up to 5, maybe more offenses, and the owner just has to pay a fee. Now, if you have a vicious dog that has bitten somebody, do they get 5 chances to bite somebody?
They do not. The issue, if a biting dog would be tried under this vicious pet hearing.
Okay.
So
it's a different standard?
It is. It's, if we go back up to the definitions here.
Because it said the care and control, so the control of pets, $100, that's, people are not controlling their pets.
Correct.
Okay.
But if you have an aggressive or vicious pet, which is defined as one that's menaced, chased, displayed threatening behavior to a domestic animal, a dog found running at large 2 or more times during a 12-month period, that's a vicious or aggressive pet and is subject to harsher consequences. Level 2, one that's already shown aggressive tendencies by menacing, chasing, or otherwise endangering the safety of a human. Level 3, one that, while unprovoked, has bitten a human or physically harmed or killed a domestic animal. Level 4, a pet that's attacked a human being resulting in serious injury or death. So you can jump right to level 4. I mean, if you are wandering around and you maul someone and it's a serious injury, that's a level 4 pet right there. So that just has to be brought before the board for a vicious or aggressive pet hearing, and then could be
We've had that happen.
humanely euthanized.
Unfortunately,
yeah.
Okay, I mean, I'm just concerned because it was my grandchildren that were at the park that almost got attacked by the dogs.
Yes, certainly that dog wouldn't get multiple chances.
It did get multiple chances. So this has changed so that dog will not get as many chances?
I can't speak to that fact pattern because I don't know all the facts of that, but if the dog had previously demonstrated aggressive behavior.
And the dog had bitten someone prior to that.
And had been taken to an aggressive or vicious pet hearing, which I don't know if it was or not.
I don't know about that one.
That may be the missing step here. Is there may have
Yeah.
been an enforcement issue, but it wasn't a problem with the ordinance per se.
Okay. My fear is I just don't want dogs to be given more, they bite somebody and they're given more chances. They can bite a second time and even a third time, because that's what happened before.
Or even aggressive level 2.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what was that?
The level 2, the aggressive dog chasing somebody, not necessarily biting, but just...
Could you come up to the microphone?
Check the mic.
Come on up, Bob.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, my concern, it's Bob Ward from Bennington, is the level 2 dog that could be aggressive, chasing somebody, whether it be elderly or children. That is a dog that the next step is going to be the level 3 or 4.
Mm-hmm. And if that dog
That's my concern. Rather than having it go all the way to level 4, there should be a hearing on a dog that's acting repeatedly aggressively.
And there could be.
Yeah.
And there could be. And there are consequences in here for a level 2 dog that's found to be a level 2 dog. A level 2 pet is required to be restrained on the owner's property by a secure fence with a secure locking device, with the fence to be at least 6 feet high or securely tied on an exercise wire or similar contrivance. Underground perimeter fencing, that's the electronic fences, are not considered as restrained when a pet has been determined to be a level 2 or level 3. Whenever the pet is off the owner's property, the pet must be on a leash no longer than 8 feet and under the control of a responsible person.
But in the past case, that wasn't really enforced. The dog was...
Let me make one point that I think we might be losing in translation here. A level 4 pet did not get 3 chances prior.
I understand that.
Okay.
I'm thinking,
I wanna make sure
I'm
you
thinking
all
a level
understand.
2, which is probably could lead to a level 3 or 4.
Well, ideally, if a pet is found to be a level 2 under this, they are never off their property again without being on an 8-foot leash.
In this past case, they were cited for being aggressive, and the pet repeatedly was off the property, attacking other dogs, other people. So what's the consequences if you have a level 2 that's repeatedly gets out of the property?
Again, that's an enforcement issue. I mean, if the level 2 is getting out, then it becomes an issue that needs to be tried further. But it ultimately, the town and the animal control officer can only be aware of so much. So it really comes down to what the animal control officer knows and what they are doing with their time.
Okay, so if the dog repeatedly gets out, it's supposed to be kept in a, secure, is that cause for a hearing?
It could be.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I'm just concerned about just...
Yeah, this does not loosen those standards for those dogs whatsoever. Okay. This is only increased penalties for violating the ordinance.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah.
Do we have a leash law in Bennington? Yeah. We do? Yeah. So when I go to Star Street Park and there's dogs walking around.
You need to come to the microphone, please. They can't hear you on Zoom.
So we do have a leash law.
Well, this ordinance requires animals to be under the control of their owner. So if you have a dog, according to this, if you have a dog that is under your voice control,
right,
that's enough. But it has to be under your voice control.
But if you see a dog just out of a park.
But if it's just running around and it's not obviously under the voice control, it might not be.
Yep, okay.
But it isn't per se a violation either if it's not on its leash, unless there's some other issue going on where it's not under control in other respects.
So if we do have a leash law, but a dog is just wandering around.
Well, to call it a leash law would be improper. That's this ordinance here. The dog has to be under control.
But nobody's watching this dog.
Then it's
Nobody's
not
watching the
control,
dog, it's
and
not
it's in
under
violation
control.
of the ordinance.
Then it's, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, then it's running at large.
Okay, all right, thank you.
No, I see at 9-3, pet owner responsibility. I would feel better if the word accountability were also included in that article. And I just think...
As in the title, pet owner responsibility and accountability?
Yeah, responsibility and accountability. The individual has a dog that is off leash, out of voice control recurrently. I think there needs to be a definite action taken.
Well, there is. This ordinance has all of those provisions in it already, that if a dog is repeatedly out of control, it is in violation.
I understand that. So a dog is running around Willow Park. I've seen all the time. A child brings their dog there. Dog doesn't lose the kid, running wild. Animal control is called. They file a report. Yes, this dog was running wild through the park, out of control. Where do we go from there?
Well, the dog could be impounded if it's running at large.
What if it's gone home?
Well, then it would have to be a nuisance. Yeah, it would have to be one that can be defined, or it could be established to have done that multiple times. I mean, because at the end of the day, a dog is a person's property, and people have rights insofar as their property is concerned.
Absolutely.
So we can't.
They also have responsibilities.
They do have responsibilities, and in this ordinance, they're both present. Yes, we could change that section heading. Section headings don't have any legal effect.
No, I'm just saying the term accountability, I think, is something when you talk about these animals. And again, unfortunately, the 2 events that I've dealt with here, in my gut, the wrong creature was held accountable.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's what bothers me is I would like the public to know you will be held accountable for your animal's care and supervision. And, I see these things in here, but again, I think the most important part about any ordinance we pass in this town, the public has to be able to understand and process it. So, if somebody reads, hey, my dog gets loose, this will happen to me, boom.
And that was why I tried to rewrite it into these numbered sections and things, was so that a person reading, because if you read this ordinance previously, it was paragraphs of text. You would go cross-eyed reading it sometimes, and the language wasn't always consistent throughout it. So that was definitely a goal, was so that any pet owner reading this knows exactly what is required of them and what are the consequences for getting it wrong.
Just as a sidebar, again, as part of the registration process, I think a copy of this should be given to every person when they register their animal as part of their registration. They sign an acknowledgement that they've received this ordinance and they're aware of their responsibilities under this ordinance.
I think that's a great idea. Communicate with the licensee.
Yes.
Here's what you just committed to for another year.
Right. But, and again, the idea of the unregistered animal keeps popping in my mind too. The person is out there, there needs to be a mechanism to say, person says, oh, that's my dog, they come and claim it. It's not registered. I think we should be able, or the animal control people will issue a citation.
Well, they won't turn it over till it's been registered. So
I understand
at that point, you have to.
But when they pull me over for speeding, they didn't say, slow down, Clark, go on your merry way. I think that these people need to be held accountable. You let your dog run wild, and it created, again, burden and effort on the community, and there needs to be some accountability. So that's going to cost you $25. Boom. It's a citation. You didn't follow an ordinance. I think people need to be cited for this.
So just to be clear, you'd like to see something above the $100 citation amount if the animal is also not registered?
I think so, yes.
Is there a mechanism to find an animal owner without anything other than discovering that they weren't registered?
I'm afraid I don't understand the question.
Say that again.
If I were driving without a license, there might be a penalty for doing that. I don't get to just go get a license and then everybody is happy with me. I probably have a penalty. This person that we're using as an example, it's discovered that their pet is not registered or licensed or whatever the term is.
We discussed that, sorry to cut you off, we discussed that exact situation internally, and what our conclusion was is that at the point you say that, they go, oh, you know what, that's not my pet, and then they walk away. And then the town is stuck with a pet. So we would rather have them register the pet and walk away with the pet, even if it is maybe a bad deed going unpunished versus a pet essentially being abandoned to the town. And, we don't want that. We want these pets with their owners, and we don't want the cost of caring for them.
We don't want to send it, we could debate this for 3 months. Never mind.
Is there anyone else in the public? Is there anyone on Zoom? Do we know?
I think we have someone on Zoom, yeah.
Do we see a hand?
Let me go.
Hats off to David for multitasking.
Poor guy, we put him on two ends of the room now.
Hello, I'm on Zoom. Hello?
Hello, it's Sam again.
Okay, Sam, go ahead.
Yes, I have a few things. I'm surprised. Bennington doesn't have a problem with chickens and roosters? Nothing? I would keep that on the back burner. Secondly, talking about dogs, I'm mostly, it's all dogs instead of cats. You might want to look at Beach Street Ball Field too. There's quite a few residents that naturally in the morning, they go to the ball field, unleash their dogs, let them run, and then call them back. So that's something to be watched on as well. What about the pooper scooper law? There are bags that are around town with defecation around that are left by owners. How are they held accountable? That's a health issue, in my opinion. Another issue, dogs in cars. Are they accountable for the owners that are left? And what about homes that are known to house feral cats? Okay, drop this cat off. We talked about it, 3 months ago, about St. Anne's or about the feral cat situation, where does that fall into place? And yes, in today's world, there are homeowners that do set out poison to solve their own problems about dogs and cats. So those are my concerns.
Thank you.
David, if I was trained on one or the other, I'd give you a hand, but
We're learning stuff. We're learning things.
It's, yeah. I'm learning stuff too. This obviously is a fairly narrowly crafted ordinance. It started that way. I did not attempt to expand it into areas that I was not asked to explore by the select board. Some of those may be good ideas, but I am going to await for the select board to charge me with including them in the statute or the ordinance before I make those revisions, if I do.
And I think the pooper scooper ordinance is covered, I think that's covered under something else.
So is a dog in a hot car.
Right.
Yeah. Right, so
Right.
this is not the tool that has every answer in it.
Right, either in our ordinance or in state law, which I think it is covered.
As was pointed out, I mean, this is an ordinance that's intended to address particular issues, and there's lots of issues out there. And I think it does a pretty good job of that. I mean, I have my own concerns with it about how it could be, misapplied, but in the past, it hasn't really been misapplied. There's fairly benign situations with dogs, like I say, with, in the neighborhood that aren't really causing a problem that can be dealt with without elevating it and causing a lot of controversy. So I think that the way it's been enforced has been good. I think that there have been some places where it needed to be tightened up and where enforcement needs to be a little bit firmer in more severe cases, and I think this does that. So recognizing that we might want to adjust the fee schedule or something going forward, I don't have a problem with moving forward on this as it is. Thank you.
Anyone else?
when you get there.
Okay.
Oh.
You're next. Yep.
Great. So at this point, I would move to amend the draft by replacing all occurrences of humanely kill with humanely euthanize, and to adopt the ordinance with that amendment, those amendments.
And I'll second that if that's a motion. Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to second that.
All right. Any other discussion from the board?
Only, does that include adopting the fee schedule?
No, we'll do the fee schedule separately.
You're going to do that as a separate motion? Okay.
Again, that word accountability just won't leave my mind, and on here, pet owner accountability in my mind should clearly be part of this document.
Alternately, we could potentially release this with a press release talking about owner accountability.
I could live with that, but again, as my earlier comment, I think maybe something in here requiring this document to be provided to everyone upon registration of their animal with a signature when they sign the form to register their animal, that they are presented with a copy of this policy at that time.
Look, my only concern with that is if we're going to split some hairs over language, is that 9.3 really is about responsibility. It says like what the pet owner must do. The accountability, in my mind, the meaning of that word comes later, like when we talk about penalties, right? Because if you don't do that, then this is how you'll be held accountable.
Sure, wherever it's in here, but I think the most important part, again, going back to the reasonable person approach, is somebody should know that, hey, if I don't do this, this is what can happen to me. We need that kind of preamble in the penalty area. That,
I think the language does that, though. I mean, to use Ed's example of driving without a license, when you did that, you knew you were potentially facing penalties, and those penalties are what were intended to hold you accountable. I hear what you're saying, Clark. I think that the wording in here, the verbiage used, makes it pretty clear that you're going to be held accountable if you violate the ordinance.
All right, well, then, and I can, pull back on that, but I still would like the standard that each year, annually, you register your animal, that you are given a copy of this ordinance, and as part of your registration paperwork, there's a signature acknowledging receipt of this information.
I feel as strongly as Clark does about that. I don't know if it needs to be a part of the motion, or if we can ask the town clerk's office to make that policy.
If I could on that, I don't disagree with the notion that people should know what their responsibilities are, and this is certainly the responsibility of a pet owner. I don't know that handing out untold thousands of pages of this is going to accomplish that, unfortunately. I think, what we do in a lot of cases with bylaws and ordinances that people are responsible for following is to hand them something, maybe not the full 8-page document, but like a postcard that says you are responsible for following the ordinance XYZ of the town of Bennington, and you could have them sign it or initial it or whatever with a reference to where it is. Because I'm sure, unfortunately, that we will be spending a lot of money printing thousands and thousands and thousands of pages of paper that aren't going to make it out of the lobby of the town clerk's office.
Absolutely. The form that they're filling to register their animal should have that on there, whether it be the bottom, they tear off the bottom and take it home with them. But I think the most important part is people need to know that there are rules and they will be held to account should they violate those rules. And as I said earlier, the wrong animals have been held accountable, in my opinion.
I agree.
Sarah, you had something?
So I'm listening to all of this, and I don't normally chime in. I think you all know that. But I think kind of gathering from this, maybe there's something that we can all maybe see, the idea that David had, the idea that you had, the idea that everybody has. Maybe there's something that we could maybe works with all of this, because everybody registers the same time every year, and we're trying to get people to register. And then we also want to remind people that this is their responsibility. So if we could remind people to register every year, maybe a press release in the paper, and then also at the same time remind them that this is their responsibility in the paper.
Send them to that place on the website for confirmation.
Yeah.
When you apply for a license to drive a car, you are committing to doing certain things in exchange for the privilege to drive a car, and I'm just using that because it's such an obvious example. I got to be honest with you, when I drop off my check for dog licenses by the 1st of April every year, I'm like, drop the check and run. I won't be late. I'm not concerned about what I just committed to for another year. Sure. So I don't know that we can work that into, I don't know where we can work that in, but I think we need more communication.
So maybe if we put that on a town site, register your dog and here's your responsibilities, and then we don't have to use the paper and it's on the town site. Just a thought.
I would be fine with something like that.
It'd be fine if Jim Theron's writing this down.
He's got us here.
By April 1st every year, Jim.
Anyone else on the board? All right. So I understand the motion on the floor to be to accept the ordinance as presented with the exception of amending the language to change the word kill to euthanize. Am I correct?
All instances.
All instances. All right.
I think that's where we were.
Right. So all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I believe we are unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So now, we have to look at the schedule.
Yeah, I'll do a part of this. I would move that we amend the fee schedule presented to add in the section for civil penalty for ordinance violation, that if the only violation the pet has ever received is for running at large, then the fee or the penalty is 1/2 of what's listed.
That's an interesting way to address the different kinds of complaints that people may bring forth. A runner is very different than a vicious dog.
And I want to be clear that the motion I'm making is that if the only violation the pet has ever received is for running at large, they qualify for half. But if they were previously, the violation was for menacing, and now this time it's running at large, they don't qualify for the half.
And that half is instead of another fee schedule having to be managed.
Right.
I like that a lot.
I think it should be clear that if there are other charges currently.
If the only violation the pet has ever received is for running at large.
Okay, so ever would, I guess, cover current.
Right.
Including up until now.
Yeah.
I saw Jim first and then Sarah.
Is that a comment or a motion?
That was a motion, yeah.
I would second it.
Thank you.
Sarah?
So while I hear that and I hear the intent on that, I think that this schedule looks really good. I think it was well thought out, and I would like to leave that to the discretion of the animal control, because I think that they are doing what they're doing and probably are leaving a lot of their discretion to people that have reasons and different ways that they're dealing with things. So I'm happy with this, and I'd like to vote on how this is scheduled.
I would love to understand, because I don't actually think our animal control officer has discretion over the penalties here. I think that is for us to approve.
And when we talk about discretion, this board would have struggled with any discretion that we might have been given when we were looking at a couple of these real time. The cases that we were presented with, the dog fit the description of whatever it was being labeled by statute, and we didn't have any wiggle room, and that made it possible for us to do our jobs. We wouldn't have come to a majority vote if we hadn't been directed with what exactly we had to do. So I'm not so sure that I like the idea of discretion. I like the idea of discretion where, an animal control officer picks up a dog that's running on the side of the road and finds its owner and brings it back, and there's little to no penalty the first time. I mean, I'm making this up, because the dog just snuck out under a fence. I mean, that's different than some of the cases that we've seen here before.
And I would agree, Ed. I mean, it is important I think that the animal control officer does maintain some of that discretionary power. Just like if a cop pulls you over and you're 5 miles over the speed limit, they tell you to slow down and don't do it again. And I think part of that would be counseling. In the instance of the dog got out under the fence, you got to fix the fence, and that sort of thing. Under that kind of thing, I honestly, I don't see our animal control officer imposing a $100 fine on a dog that they just found not bothering anybody really, but had happened to get loose. Because dogs are smart creatures.
I think that they need a firm schedule to refer to with then the discretion to enforce or not. And this is the first time that I just saw the dog run under the fence. I'm going to bring it back to the owner. You got to get that fence fixed. That's not a punishable by a fine. But if it is, I don't want the animal control officer put in a position where they have to make up the number, because that feels uncomfortable to me. If I was that person, if I was that animal control officer, I would want to go to something and say, this is what I have to charge as a fine, because it's in the ordinance.
And if it keeps happening, that's when the officer's discretion becomes, look, I gave you a shot here.
Right.
And
Last time you said they just rushed out under the fence. You didn't fix the fence?
Well, the escalating fee schedule will help make that point too. And that's, I think, part of what I like about suggesting that it be half, because even if, it's the third time my dog's running at large, it's still a greater fee. It's still $200 at that point, right?
It's escalating up because it is still a problem.
Yeah.
David, do you have any thoughts on this, as with your lawyer hat on?
Wait, how much time do we have?
Cat's out of the bag now.
There goes the agenda.
Definitely, the idea was that, yes, that the animal control officer has some discretion in the enforcement initially, and then, like as the example was made of the cop giving you an oral warning versus writing you a ticket the first time, and then chronic offenders, of course, they have that fee schedule in front of them, and then, yes, repeat offenders get escalating fines. And even the waiver was designed in a way that, you don't want to be waiving your sixth offense because it's still a big chunk of money. You should have stopped by then. So that is my lawyerly but short answer, if that works.
Any thoughts on that, Jackie? It's your amendment.
I mean, I agree with everything that I've heard from David. I don't think he spoke for or against the motion that I made. I appreciate that, David. My motion stands.
Yeah, and as far as it goes, I think that, you're really dealing with a couple of different objectives there. One is, protecting the public from a potentially dangerous dog, and the other really is protecting the dog. You don't have a dog running wild, get hit by a car. So, that's a danger to the dog, and that's a really serious thing too, but it's in a different ballpark than a vicious dog. So I appreciate the sentiment behind Jackie's motion. I would still second that, yeah.
Thank you.
So to make it clear then, Jackie, if it's the first offense, and the only thing they've ever done is been out running loose, but then from the second offense on, it wouldn't be halved, is that?
No, they would all be halved, So first offense, $50, second offense, $100, third offense, $200.
Unless the animal control officer opted to waive the first time because of whatever discretion they used. It's always going to be 50% of whatever is being charged.
Right.
Yeah. I just think that's an easy way for everybody to understand what they're in for.
Yeah.
We make it clear that officer discretion, not a requirement, because somebody will say, hey, you didn't nail my neighbor.
So are you clear on what Jackie's suggesting?
I'm not entirely clear on what
Welcome to the club.
I will become clear, and then I will comply with what's asked for, but I'm not exactly sure what we're looking for. Are we looking for another section to the fee schedule that is just related to running at large versus other violations?
No, David, that's what I'm trying to avoid. So my amendment was that we just add to the section under civil penalty for ordinance violation.
So we're back under the ordinance now.
No, I'm sorry, the fee schedule.
Okay.
So the last page in the packet that you provided to us, under civil penalty for ordinance violation, at the bottom of that section, I would add a line that says, if the only violation the pet has ever received is for running at large, the fee shall be 1/2 of that listed above. Or I'm sorry, the penalty. I say fee, penalty. I understand they're different things.
I don't see a problem with that.
Thank you.
Thoughts on that? I'm afraid we've got a motion on the table, so only we can discuss it right now.
5 offenses, like would that be for, like they did it the first time, they get half, they're still just running loose. Second,
We really can't carry on a conversation if you're not by a mic.
Yep.
Sorry.
We have a motion on the table, so only the board can discuss it at this point. Yep.
so I just can't clarify that thing?
So as I've said, and I don't know if we can put this up on the screen, maybe that would help members of the public, but the schedule that we were given says first offense $100, second offense $200, third offense, $400. My motion is that if it's only for running at large, that's the only thing the dog has ever been violated for, that the schedule be $50 and then $100 and then $200 instead of $100, $200, $400. So it's half.
Still fairly substantial.
And if your dog's getting out all the time, by the time you get to your fifth and subsequent offenses, it's still $400 each time.
And you've invested quite a bit of money by the time you got to that $400. You've spent $50, $150. I mean, you're at $750 here.
Could have fixed your fence.
Yeah,
Right.
fix your fence.
I think the only matter of confusion that I can see looking at this is whether or not that language is intended to refer to both the waivers and the civil penalties, or just the civil penalties. Because the way it's discussed would appear to make it apply just to the civil penalties, but presumably you would want it to apply to the waivers as well.
My understanding, David, correct me, the civil, that waiver, you're in the process moving forward. You've been cited, you're told to come here before this committee or whatever, and then, you just said, okay, yeah, I'm culpable, give them that. As opposed to this ordinance violation, I thought is pretty much, you've got a violation that needs to be addressed.
You could view it as sort of a guilty plea.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you do the guilty plea, that falls up here under the waiver, but the actual ordinance, and is my interpretation, the ordinance violation, yeah, you've been adjudicated and found guilty, and this is the penalty for your first.
If we want it to apply to both sections, and I think that makes the most sense based on what I'm hearing here, because otherwise it would be more attractive to pay a $50 civil fee than a $70 waiver. Right. You'd want that language then to go between where it says the title and the subsection that says waiver fee for municipal complaints. So in other words, above this right here, that way it would apply to both sections.
I'm amenable to that if the rest of the board.
I'm fine with that. As David said, it wouldn't make any sense for no one would take the waiver if it was more costly than the civil penalty. So I think it makes sense to apply it to both.
And the purpose of the waiver, David, is basically they're saying, yes, my dog did this, we're not going to court.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Any more discussion on the motion?
Can we call that waiver of due process fee or something so that the public understands it? I don't know the right language, but.
Well, the language here says a waiver fee in lieu of a civil penalty, and then below
I'm talking
it's a
about
civil
in the
penalty.
title, that's all.
I see.
Yeah.
Well, we could place in lieu of civil penalty right after waiver fee in the title if you'd like.
Sure. I like it.
Yes.
Sarah, go ahead.
I will be voting no because currently I'm dog sitting, and if I were to be fined $100 currently, I would not let that dog out again, and some people have to slap on wrist. I don't care, but $100, that dog would now be going out, and this dog's a runner, so that wouldn't be happening again. So to me, this protects the pet, and because the pet currently is under the care of the owner, so it's property of the owner. So that's why I'm voting no.
Anyone else?
Let's vote.
I'll agree with Sarah. Keep it where it is. If there are people that know somebody's dog is always running around, so they stay in their own house.
I never thought I'd heard.
If your dog's running around,
charge the taxpayer more.
pay the $100.
Anyone else? All right, so I will call the vote on the motion as presented with the amendments. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed?
Aye. No.
Okay, so you're a no. All right. So it passes 5-2. Thank you very much.
David, thank you for the work on that.
I want to just reiterate that my motion was just to amend what was presented, not to adopt it. So we should probably do that as well.
Okay.
My motion was just to amend what was presented, not to adopt
We
it.
have to have a separate motion for adoption.
Let's do it.
I'll make a motion that we adopt the amendments that we just voted for.
Right.
I'd second that.
All right. We're just voting to adopt on the amendment. So.
We'd be more confused if you voted yes to that, Sarah.
So all those in favor of formally adopting
The amended.
the amended waiver fees and civil penalties for improper care and control of pets, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Yeah. All right. So it does pass by the same margin. Thank you very much.
Nancy voted no to that, Tom.
Yep.
I voted yes.
She voted yes to adoption, no to...
The one before it.
Oh, okay.
Remember breakup
Okay.
of penalties.
Thank you for correcting me. So passed.
No to the first one.
6-1.
Yes to the second one, which doesn't need a base.
All right. Next up, review and re-adopt the rules of procedure and public comment guidelines. Shannon is going, we review this annually, always at this meeting. So I will ask Shannon to go ahead and take the lead.
Sure. Well, if you're wondering why we're looking at so many policies, this is part of just the reorganization process after town meeting day every year. So it's the policy of the select board to review and re-adopt annually, in this case, the board's rules of procedure and the board's public comment guidelines. The rules of procedure and public comment guidelines are attached for review and readoption, and these are exactly the same as they were last readopted, which actually looks like we're...
2023.
Well, it says the last was 2024, so these have been in place since then for the rules and procedures.
Can I ask a question about, just for my own clarity? The way to discuss changes to this is the process that we're taking up right now, correct?
That's correct.
Yes, exactly.
I'm not suggesting that I have any changes.
All right, so let's take them one at a time. Town of Bennington policy on select board rules of procedure for meetings. Does anyone have any changes they would like to see made in that section? Start with Nancy.
Open meeting laws are tied to this, correct?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Have there been any changes to open meeting laws in the past 2 years that we haven't discussed here?
I don't know that any of these rules or procedures were impacted by open meeting law. And
I'm talking that the legislature has passed in the past 2 years.
I'm not sure that any rule or procedure that we use addressed that recent change.
I think the assumption could be made that we are covered under open meeting law.
Right. We
So this
follow
is kind
open
of
meeting law,
peripherally, but-
and this is how we conduct ourselves within the meeting. That would be my way to describe that.
Okay, did you have anywhere in particular that you were pointing to, Nancy?
Well, when I watched a CPAR meeting recently, one of the members said there had been some changes. And I know, like, as far as people being able to call in the town recording the meetings, what I found over the weekend, and I don't know if it was fact from the state or it was Al, but having to have on the town, it said towns with the town website have to be able to show how someone could file an open meeting law complaint so it could get to the select board or the attorney general. Now, if that's correct, would that have to be in here?
No, because
No.
this actually sets forth the rules by which we will run our meetings. So that's a state law.
that we have
And there
to...
were some minor changes around an actual
Select board agendas?
conflict versus perceptions of conflicts and that kind of stuff, but...
I just want to make sure if there's been changes in the past 2 years and we're not aware of it, if it's going to impact any of this, it should be in here.
Well, I just retook the open meeting law training because I'm required to by statute.
Sorry?
I said I just retook the open meeting law training from the state of Vermont because I'm required to by statute, and because it's always good to get a refresher on open meeting law.
So there was nothing new that you...
There was nothing that I read in here that set up any flags for me, no.
Well, and the first line says that
we're required
by law to conduct its meetings following the Vermont open meeting law. So that first statement says we must adhere to open meeting law. Again, I'll say it, I don't think there's anything that has changed in open meeting law that is not being covered by that statement in the way that we conduct ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's certainly some overlap between what's in this policy and what open meeting law requires.
That's true.
I'm looking at Section 3 about like how we call and hold emergency meetings. I'm looking at Section 8 about minutes being posted no later than 5 calendar days, but as far as I'm aware, what's in this policy is consistent with the latest open meeting law.
Yep, I agree.
Move down. Do you have any
Yeah, I
suggestions
have some
for
things on
changes?
here. And again, when we get documents, is there a reason why we can't have page numbers on the bottom?
I can't hear you. I don't know if you're not talking.
That's actually a valid, she asked if there's any reason we can't get page numbers on them so we can point each other in the right place.
I would love page numbers.
Duly noted.
Thank you, Shannon. But for now, I guess we'll just refer to this.
For agendas, number 1, those who wish to add an item to the meeting agenda, contact the chair and vice chair to request the inclusion on the agenda. So if I start contacting you by email, I can get my items on agendas?
The discretion still remains with the chair and vice chair as to whether it is something that we need to discuss. Or can discuss.
If we cannot take any action on anything, it's difficult to put it on the agenda to discuss it.
Right, or if it's going over something that's been passed and now has been enacted, such as approval of a contract or something like that, that we're...
Discussion only?
bound to
Sure.
That discussion, there's no point in having that discussion again because we're bound by a contract.
That discussion can be had between the town manager and the board member who has questions.
Right. But certainly do...
Under meetings, number 3, emergency meetings may be held without public announcement, but then in the next line it said, provided some public notice is given as soon as possible before any such meeting. So should that second part be taken out? It says we don't need any public announcement, but then it says some public notice should be given before the meeting.
I think what this is referring to is, where we post the agendas at various places around town. We wouldn't have to do that in that situation, but we would have to post it, say, on the website or something like that.
Yeah, you generally understood that when there's an emergency meeting, it's an emergency and you can't do all the things you would ordinarily do, but you do have to make some good faith effort to let the public know that there's a meeting. So that might be, just putting something on the town's website or Facebook page or just whatever you can do in the very short term. If you have to have a meeting to take care of a critical emergency situation and, that's 8 hours away, you can't, you can only do so much, but you have to do what you can do. That's all it
We
means.
should also ask local media to include their social media and websites if there's an emergency meeting warning, because it can be done without you know,
I think, you make, it says making, you really have to make an effort, and that's really the critical thing. I think, the thing with emergency meetings, if you start putting a lot of requirements on there, then you worry about invalidating any action at the meeting, and it's an emergency and you really need to. So, it has to be a legitimate emergency. You can't make up and say, okay, let's call this one an emergency meeting. You can't do that. But if it really is a genuine emergency, you just have to do what you can.
That additional comment that I made about media would be a practice not in this document. I would just encourage us to do that from the town manager's office.
And under public participation, under 12, members of the public may comment on any item on the agenda as long as it's germane. I think it should say, ask questions and get answers.
I disagree.
Well, we have page numbers.
Oh, I found it.
Public participation, line 12, number 12.
Yep. Well, I think we do that. If it's an agenda item, we do give the public, you asked questions this evening, and they were germane, so, we accepted them.
But at the start of the meeting, you have citizens' comments, you don't want questions. But now you're talking about the public participating in agenda items, you're still talking about commenting.
I see that as two different items. One is a comment at the beginning that is not related to an agenda item and does not spark a conversation or a question and answer, sort of like the member of the public offering up an announcement. But if that member of the public wants to discuss something that's on the agenda, they're given that opportunity by the chair, as we've seen tonight. So it's two different functions, I think.
Under 17, the public's right to comment under other business and the manager's report is limited to action items.
Is that another topic you're raising?
Well, I'm just going down
Yep.
into 17, so explain that to me. So citizens can now ask the town manager questions after the manager's report again?
We've generally been fairly accepting of people asking questions.
No, not in the manager's report. Previous chair, a couple of years ago, said citizens couldn't ask the manager questions. And we haven't asked the public since I've been on the board. After the manager's report, does anybody have any questions? They used to ask a lot of questions if they're talking something that will impact their tax bill, their water and bill. There's a project coming up. People used to come in to ask questions.
If they are action items, Nancy, I think you're correct.
So we are going to allow that again.
Informational notices that the manager gives, such as a water project moving forward, that's not an action item. That's just something that they're sharing with the board.
An action item is anything we have to vote on.
Right. Well, okay. Then citizens.
The manager is available for questions at all times.
But the town charter has always required the manager to be here. And if a person has a question and they come in to ask it, wouldn't it make sense so everybody can hear the question and answer?
It opens up it makes it a lot stickier in terms of...
Worked great for 50 years.
Tom, can I try?
Yeah, go ahead.
Public participation during this meeting is for the benefit of members of this board to make an informed decision, not for members of the public to be informed on every issue that the town manager may provide information on.
Well, but we need to remember, without a town budget, we wouldn't have work to do. We wouldn't have a town. So we need to remember who pays the budget.
And members of the public have ample opportunity to share their thoughts with us when we are discussing the budget.
And I think it's important to draw the distinction between a meeting that's open to the public and a public meeting. This is a meeting that's open to the public. And if the public wants to provide things that can help us educate us, That is the purpose of these meetings. These are, as opposed to a public meeting where the rules are very, very different. But this is not, our meetings are not public meetings. They're meetings that are open to the public, and there's a distinction.
Well, it's unfortunate how things have changed in several years. Do you want to talk about liaison positions?
Sure.
Number 3, liaison positions are for the purpose of increasing the flow of information between the Select Board and those boards and organizations that are assigned liaisons. Now, the concern I've raised for about 3 years, each of 5 people stays with the same board or committee all year. They're never given 5 minutes at a regular meeting to tell the rest of the board and the public, my committee is working on a new project, or everything is great, or, well, my committee is having some financial issues. So if I want to know what's going on, I go to the meeting myself, or I may have it may be covered by CAT TV, or I read the minutes.
You could also reach out to us.
Sorry?
You could also reach out to us.
And I think that this is basically saying if, say, the library board tells Jim that we want the select board to hear about this, then Jim brings it to us. Or, for example, we had heard from the Energy Committee tonight, and Sarah was involved with communications between me and Chris, as to getting that scheduled and set up. So if a member is a liaison and they have something that they feel the board needs to know about, they just would let the chair know, and we would bring it to the agenda.
I've done it I've done it by that way. I've also done it during other business where if it was just a, hey, by the way, I'm the liaison for such and such a group and we are discussing so-and-so, if it is going to come to this board that there is a change in the way that one of our boards or committees does business, I think that this board should be given the heads up by the liaison, and I try to do that. But I think this is an absolute way for board members to get out from behind this table. So if we're suggesting that we do away with it, I'm going to disagree with that.
I'm suggesting that we give each of the liaisons, if your board meets once a month or every other month, just give you 5 minutes to say, here's what we're working on, so the rest of the board and the public is aware.
If that works for the board, I don't have a problem with that. I thought that we were covering that need by each of us being responsible liaisons and bringing back what we thought that the board or the public ought to be aware of.
And it's important to note that the liaison is not an active member of the board. They are there to be a conduit.
Non-voting.
We are not doing things, they are doing things.
Clark?
Yeah, I've been liaison to 2 different groups, and my experience has been that they share information in their business meetings that, of course, the public is able to see at times, but they're subtle things that we, as the board, need to know. And when these things have popped up, and I've had the discussion with the chair and the vice chair, I've not brought it to the board per se, because it doesn't necessarily, in some of these cases, need more than a heads up. And Jim and Tom and previously Jeannie, if there's something that they felt needed to be delved into deeper, they'd say, hey, could you have whatever your organization is, give me a call or send me some data as to why this is happening. So, CPARB, they don't meet every month, so I can't come to you every month to talk what CPARB is doing. And when I do sit in their meetings, many times there are items that they look to me to make decisions, and I say, that's not my job. I'm not here to make decisions in the CPARB. I'm here to let you know if you have concerns that you think the board should address or can help you resolve, please let me know, or if not let me know, let the chair and the vice chair know. So, the liaison is just that, a liaison. It's not an action position. It's a conduit. And
But what about when a board has been struggling?
is
struggling, and the liaison doesn't come back and tell the chair, or?
I can't deal with what is. I know I've come to Tom on at least one occasion and said, hey, something is really wonky here, and, I'd like you to sit down with the chair of that board and sort this out, So, again, that my role as liaison, or as either role is to say that when they see something like that, that's something that the liaison should be bringing to Tom. I don't think it should be broadcast to the public, oh, by the way, this board is struggling. You know, they're a subsection of this board, and it's up to us to guide them along and give them the help they need. And again, as you say, the liaison is a conduit. It's my experience that, yeah, there's been times where I've had to come to the board and say, hey, or come to Tom, or to say, man, I just heard or saw something I really think we need to look deeper into. So you know.
And under meeting minutes?
Just throw something in here real quick, Nancy. And I really appreciate the number of meetings that you go to beyond this meeting. I mean, I watch a lot of them. I don't get to go to them as many as you do, but I really do appreciate your efforts on that. So
I don't know if it's my ears or not, but I'm having trouble down here.
Okay.
Hearing you guys. Speaking to the mic.
I thought I was. I was just telling Nancy that I do appreciate her efforts in going to the other meetings. And I wish I could go to more, but I do watch all the ones that are recorded that I can.
Under meeting minutes.
So each of these things that we've taken apart, we're not doing anything with, we're just reading them?
It sounds like it's more for
I'm just hearing her concerns
clarification.
on this particular section.
Okay.
I haven't heard of any actual changes yet.
Yep. She's looking for clarifications.
Got it.
Meeting minutes. Why can't we have Jonah, at the start of the meeting, we ask for corrections to be made. Why can't we have him go into the packet and make those actual corrections in the packet? So if somebody wants to go back and read, I'll go back for years and look at minutes online. It would be much easier if I could read the packets that's corrected, rather than read the packet afterwards, find out what they said at the beginning, and then go back to apply to the one before. Most people don't do that. If they're reading minutes and there were changes somebody corrected at the next meeting, sometimes one or two words makes a big difference.
The way that we do this is standard procedure for every organization, committee, board that I've been on.
Right.
Today, we have found things that we need to update on the minutes. The old copy is not there. Now the new copy is with the updates or corrections.
But the Nancy has spoiled us in the thoroughness of her minutes. I think she goes above and beyond the actual legally required definition of what minutes must include.
That's excellent minutes.
By a lot.
Nancy Lively takes at every meeting.
And because minutes typically don't include a lot of the stuff that Nancy includes.
Don't what?
They typically don't include a lot of the stuff that Nancy includes.
Don't include a lot of stuff?
Minutes are generally much shorter.
I'll look at Bennington Select Board minutes from 20 years ago. I'll bring in some. I mean, I understand times change, but if you read minutes from these meetings 20, 25 years ago, I'll bring in some.
Did they record the meetings 25 years ago?
Sorry?
Did they have video recordings of the meetings 25 years ago?
Did they, the year?
Yeah.
I couldn't hear.
Did they record 25 years ago?
Yeah, oh, I've been watching the meetings. I think Cat TV started covering the 1970s.
I don't know. I don't have a problem with the way we're doing it.
Yeah.
I'm not faulting the minutes. I understand with all the talking we do, you may miss a word or two. My thing is, if somebody goes to read the packet online, and the next meeting we said, well, can we change these to, just say it's corrected? I just think it'd be easy for Jonah to go in and make the actual...
Jonah's not responsible for that, Nancy is, and she's busy taking minutes of this meeting.
But also, when the minutes are posted, they become a public document. You can't go back and change a public document.
Okay.
So we're seeing them before they're posted? Is that what you're...
We're seeing them after they're posted, because they're posted as part of our packet, and that's right. That's a public document at that point. So we can't go back and change that.
So when we do make amendments to the minutes, how is that reflected online?
They're reflected in the minutes of the next meeting. It's not perfect, I agree.
It's not perfect.
I can't think of any other way to do it, because I don't think we can go back and alter things that have already been released.
Said another way, the corrections to last meeting are not referenced anywhere but in the minutes of this meeting.
Right.
What we said at the beginning tonight if you read the packet from last time, it doesn't show up. I just think it'd be nice if we could, but if you're saying we can't go back and do that.
But I like what Sarah did today was she sent in her adjustments ahead of time. So if everybody did that, we would only be looking at items that have already been corrected, if that's the word.
Well, I hate to come back to that, but it does raise the question that if Sarah didn't see the minutes until they were posted.
They've already gone public. Yep, you're right.
Then the amendments that she made weren't reflected in the paper copy that I had in front of me. Is that right?
I think they were reflected because they were caught.
So how did she catch them before they were posted?
It's been out since Thursday, between Thursday and today. Sarah, we're speaking for you, but I think that's what you said earlier.
Yeah, but she gave them to me at 3:30 today.
She gave them to you at 3:30. So the paper that I had in front of me did not include the amendments that she...
I was confused.
And so I did not see those changes that I then voted on. I don't care tonight, but just for to be clear, I have a problem with voting on something I have not seen.
That's interesting because Sarah just said that she had already turned them in.
She did not. She said they're my words, but that she was couching.
Right. But we didn't go through what exactly it was. She just referenced her own words. Yeah. Sarah, I'm not picking on you. This is good clarity we're getting at here.
Okay. So does that, I hope, clarify what the intent is here? You may not agree with some of it, but I hope it agrees with what the intent is. Do you have any specific changes you'd request? I'm going to go right down the table, folks.
All the policies?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Bring back citizens' questions.
That I think is going to remain, in my view, should remain with this.
Well, just so the
discretion
public
of the chair.
understands, there used to be a section on the agenda, citizens' questions. There were many times meetings where nobody ever showed up. About 8 years ago, the board moved it from the end to the beginning. So if a citizen had a question, they didn't have to sit through the whole meeting. They could come in, ask the board, get an answer, and leave. And then it changed to comment.
We do allow short questions, but anything beyond that, I think it's proper that they actually go to an agenda item and be warned, because we get into an area where if we're discussing something that wasn't warned, if there's somebody out there that wants to speak to that subject, they had no warning that was going to be talked about. That's not fair either.
I also would like to think that our town staff is much more accessible than what may have been 8 years ago. So while I've been on this board, I've heard us refer questions from the public directly to the manager's office, which is where the real information comes from anyway.
But people used to have a better understanding what was going on in town. I don't know how many people watch the meetings today compared to 20 years ago. A citizen might bring something up, and everybody, oh, I was wondering about that, and the board or the manager would answer. It's one way that the public felt more included.
I think they can, that's done now, as Tom said, if there's a short question that somebody has that begs for a fairly short answer. I think Tom made an excellent point, though. If somebody brings up an issue and they expect a full-on discussion of the issue by the board, it's not appropriate because it wasn't warned and nobody knows it was going to be discussed. So I think that there's another forum for getting those items on the agenda, and I don't and that could be that person coming to the meeting and saying, and during the public comment period, I think that we need a really thorough presentation on subject X, and then we can consider putting that on a future agenda.
And I've heard two of you say tonight that it would be inappropriate to carry on a lengthy discussion that came out of a question from a member of the public without having been warned for the rest of the public to participate if they choose.
That's where it gets sticky.
Yeah.
That's where it gets sticky. And, I have no issue with a quick question that's going to take a very brief time to answer, especially if it's not particularly controversial, but I think in other cases that the public, the rest of the public has to know that we're going to talk about it. And that's, and honestly, Nancy, I don't know how they used to do it 20 years ago. I really am focused on how we do it now, and there may have been changes to open meeting laws in the past 20 years.
It's the essence of the open meeting law, and Nancy, you're very concerned about everybody out there in the community being aware of what's going on in town, and it's the antithesis of that to be discussing things and making comments and decisions about things that aren't on the agenda. So I think it's absolutely critical that we're open and clear and transparent to the public about what we're discussing at these meetings.
With enough notice to the public for them to participate should they choose.
Yeah, on that note, I don't think, my wife can bear me out, I don't think a day goes by where someone doesn't connect or stop me and want to have a discussion about things, and I always make it a point to invite those people to come to our meetings, come to the listening sessions, or contact the appropriate town staff office, because and despite the fact that we all want to be helpful, the best way to help them is to give them the proper direction. And, you know, the winging it in Hannaford's doesn't really help a lot of people. But I think the public at large, I hope, understands that we as a town government are available to answer their questions or direct them to those people who can best answer those questions. And I know there's been questions asked that I know I've seen Dan and Stu and a lot of other people who have been involved with government much longer than me stumble because they don't have the information there, you know. Yes, I have the title, but we don't know everything, or we don't have it in hand. And I think it's a disservice to the public to give misinformation or misdirection in these short, off-the-cuff answers or discussions other than violating the open meeting law. I just don't think it does the public well. And if there are concerns, I think the door at Town Hall is only locked after 4:30. I've never heard of anyone being asked to leave when they've come to Town Hall to ask a question. Every office there is very responsive and receptive of the public. And yes, it's important that we are responsive to the public, but as I've said before, the public has to kind of get involved. If there's concern, please clearly state that concern and allow us the time to address it. And if it warrants being an agenda item, I suspect it'll end up on the agenda.
But this board, and I'm going back for 7 or 8 years, doesn't begin to spend the time it should on big projects that our town's getting involved in.
Nancy, that might be your own personal opinion about something, but if the board at large and the staff and even input from the town made an issue take longer to take up, that would naturally happen. So I think that what you might be thinking is that you want to delve into things further.
Well, I'll talk specifically at the Ben High, a major project like that, the number of public discussions I could count on one hand, the amount of critical information the public waited for, all the numbers and facts and figures for 3.5 years. They get thrown out at one meeting and the board votes 2 hours later. Never should have happened like that. I'm going
to tell you that I disagree with you on the way that you just described how that happened. I think that we had timely information as readily available as the information became available. We had access from the public to the staff. Shannon's office, the town manager's office, they were, nights and weekends addressing Ben High questions. You voted no for Ben High. You will never think that we handled it correctly.
I was asking Ben High questions a year before the select board put it on the agenda. I was wrong about very few things I raised concerns about. I mean, we had information on an agenda 3 months before the Ben High meeting, pulled it off the agenda that night. That should have been discussed publicly.
I don't know if we can call
Nancy,
it. We're not going to go back to order.
Nancy, can we come back to the policy, please?
When I hear it's my opinion, it's not my opinion.
Well, it is directly opposite of my opinion, Nancy, so I want that to be clear to the public.
And I think we should point out that everything has always been available to the public to find on our town website. So if they wanted access to any information, it was there. And the opportunity from staff to help them find that information was also there. They just have to ask
And I got to tell you, in my 3 years on this board, the public has a lot to talk about and be concerned about. But I have never, in all of my public conversations, been accused of not providing this board, not providing information to the public, or rushing through a vote. In all the things that we have worked on in my 3 years, that's not what the public is complaining to me about. Public is complaining to me about the same thing that we're complaining about, which is high taxes and the obvious things that we're always working to address. But I don't share your concern there.
Sarah.
I don't really have, I don't have a lot.
Turn your mic on.
One thing. There was one thing in here that mentioned speaking through the chair that, I don't know. I was listening, so I don't know what section it was in. So I'm of no help with that one.
Under order number 4, is that what you're?
It might be through motions and voting. I was just trying to find it. Might be addressing.
Yeah, Sarah, I think you're looking at section 6 under order number 4.
Oh, yes, so, Mr. Chairman, all comments must be addressed to the presiding officer. So I think, we haven't really been practicing through that, Mr. Chair, but, so I'm practicing right now, Mr. Chair.
That's almost directly from Robert's rules, and in meetings like this, technically, like if you watch Congress, they keep saying, Mr. Chairperson, Mr. Chairperson, Mr. Chairperson. I do tend to go a little more loosely on that, especially when dealing with the public, because really when the public comes up, they're supposed to address me. Even if they have a question for somebody that's up at the podium, they're supposed to ask me. And then I'm supposed to ask the person. And that feels cumbersome sometimes. So do you have a suggestion?
I do. I think we've been getting, and we're such a small town, so we're, very loose, and I really appreciate that. But I think we may have gotten a little too loose at times. So maybe if we implemented that and started to try that a little bit, I don't know. Any thoughts on that?
I could take
Mr.
that
Chairman?
under advisement. I'll do my best.
Okay.
I can't expect the public to be as fully versed in Robert's rules as we are supposed to be.
And I thought that we had made some significant improvements in Robert's Rules of Order, but order in general in the last 6 months or so. And if we need to do more of that, Sarah, we should.
Yep. I don't disagree.
And
For example, Ed, you should have just said, Mr. Chair.
I should have. Please strike that from the record.
And Mr. Chairman, as I'm practicing this right now, there were some other things in here that I thought we could practice as well, just to try to get that better practice as well, because just to try to get that, I'm getting at that point where I'm not at my best. So,
So
I could go back and
could I
look at that
suggest
again.
anything that you don't have that you're actually suggesting changing the verbiage in the ordinance? Maybe you and I could get together?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Vice Chair?
I think we're probably about ready to move toward readoption of this, but as long as we're bringing up particular things that we're not necessarily doing all that well. Under number 4, motions and voting, item number 15, it says, "No member can speak more than once on any agenda item or motion until every other member choosing to speak thereon has been given the opportunity to do so." I think that could be subject to varying interpretations, but the way I would like to interpret it is that every member give a chance to comment or ask a question on an item and maybe have a follow-up, and then move on to the next person. We tend to get in the habit of people running down a list of 10 or 15 or 20 comments that they have, and I think it kind of monopolizes the discussion by one person.
That's valid. Thank you. Jackie?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As you well know, the purpose of Robert's Rules of Order is to facilitate the smooth transaction of business, to limit the opportunities for personal attacks, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, in Robert's Rules of Order, it explicitly says that if they are actually interfering with the smooth conduct of business, or if leaving those rules aside actually facilitates business happening more expediently, then you should absolutely do so. Right? So I'm in favor of leaving the application of this policy and some of these rules up to the discretion of the presiding officer. I hear my colleagues' concerns that we maybe have gotten a little loose, and there's some interrupting at times, and there, so from my mind, it's just a bit of flexibility and trying to figure out how to get through these meetings as quickly as possible and to conduct our business with good decorum and respect for each other. So I'm in favor of moving forward with approving the policies as they've been presented, and I yield back.
It says in here you can't give your time away, so you don't have to go back. Anything from Clark?
Well, Mr. Chairman, what she said. Thank you.
Ed?
Mr. Chair, from board member number 7 down here, whatever I am, down here, I don't have any proposed changes to make to this. I want to address the Robert's Rules of Order a little bit more, because I tend to be somebody that jumps out of my seat when a thought reaches my brain, and so I'm guilty of that. It's hard, and this happened a couple of times tonight, and I was trying to bite my tongue. Somebody, either a member of the public or a presenter or a member of the board, I don't remember the example, was struggling with something that I had the answer to, that would have put the debate to rest, and I purposely tried not to do it in that instance, and I let the debate unfold. So nobody wants to be interrupted, but if it could be helpful, if one of you knows the answer that I'm going on about, when we find the answer, we could, we should, we would, I've saved us some time by jumping in and saying, hey, here's what I think that is. So that's all. But I'll try to interrupt less. I think that's what I heard from my colleagues.
All right, so anything from the public? Come on up.
Yeah, I'll agree. It's a fine line that you folks have to...
Not you yet, Sam. I'll call you by name. Thank you.
Debbie Matt, Bennington. Mr. Chair, if you can straighten me out here, is the purpose of posting this a warning of what's going to be held at the meeting? Am I understanding that correctly?
It's literally called a warning.
Okay, so if we get to the meeting and all of a sudden we're going to add to this and it's going to be number 7A now, does that defeat the warning of the public? Is that legal?
We try to do that as little as possible. It is legal, as long as we do it before we've discussed any other business. So there are restrictions on that, and we do only try to do that in emergency situations where something has come up that has to be addressed immediately.
It's a good question, Deb. Thank you.
Sam? Do we lose Sam?
Well, it says asked to unmute. I'm trying.
Well, it doesn't look like it's muted.
Hang with us, Sam, we're having technical difficulty.
David, that button asks Sam to unmute himself, so he should do that.
Okay, I did it. All right, now I'm on. Yeah, no, getting back to, it's a fine rule to adhere to Robert's Rules of Orders and your agenda. And you do get loose sometimes. You're all human out there. Things get interjected. You spur off the general public, what goes on in the meeting. All those meetings are always different. So, yeah, tonight you're very structured in policy. I think that was the tone of the agenda of dealing with policy. But we're all being reminded that we are strapped to standards out there, and sometimes we get sidetracked. So it is difficult to maintain order sometimes. That's all.
Thank you, Sam. Anyone else in the public? Then I would entertain a motion to readopt the policy on select board. You'll get a chance. Rules of procedure for meetings?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion from the board?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Our conflict of interest statement, now I've always considered conflict of interest policy. Why isn't this included in with everything else?
I mean, in the...
Sure.
Well, I think, I'm not sure exactly, but what Nancy's referring to is in front of the packet that each select board member received tonight, there's a conflict of interest statement for you to sign. And I think the reason for that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Tom, but is because you voted to approve the conflict of interest policy. Was it the last meeting? So this is just a follow-up to that. It doesn't need to be warned on the agenda because it was already dealt with at the last meeting.
So was there a question?
She's asking why it was, why, I think what you're saying
Why this was
why was
separated?
this on their
We signed
packet?
this, but we're doing these, but this is totally separate.
I think that the conflict of interest requires individual commitment and signature from board members, and that goes on file, Nancy. The other one is just a policy that we agreed to live by. That's my understanding of the difference.
Well, I think the last section, there's a paragraph A, B, C, and D with this conflict of interest, and I think the D, for me, has raised a lot of concerns about how business has happened over the past 7 or 8 years.
What section of the policy here are you?
Conflict of interest?
Oh,
The statement.
we can't discuss that.
Conflict of interest policy.
Why can't we discuss it?
Because that wasn't a warned item. We're
We're talking about
discussing
rules of
the
procedure.
policy on select board rules and procedures for meetings.
Can this be on an agenda or no?
We did that recently.
The conflict of interest?
Yeah, I'll have to go back and double check when that was last looked at, but
So why are we doing it again?
Because it's the reorganization, and we have to sign at the beginning of every year.
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
Does this discussion relate to the motion on the
does
the
not,
rules of procedure?
do we have any further discussion on this policy here? And Nancy, I'll look at the conflict of interest policy
Okay.
and we can talk, but we have to stick on this particular policy right now. So any further discussion on the policy? All right. All those in favor of readopting, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nope.
Any abstentions? All right, so that is 6-1. Now, on to the public comment guidelines. Okay. I'm going to start at my left this time. Ed, any comments on the public comment?
I have no comments at this time.
Clark?
Mr. Chairman, I have the same feelings as my esteemed colleague here.
Jackie?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think we may want to consider looking at these again in a few meetings after we've had some experience with the online platform, but at this time I have no comments. Thank you.
Jackie makes a very good point.
Yeah, that's valid. Jim?
No, only to say that I think that this policy is basically repeated by our chair basically before the public comment session of every meeting, so thank you.
I get a very condensed version.
Yeah.
Sarah?
Yes, Chairman, I will echo that it might make sense to revisit this after a few hybrid meetings.
Nancy? Anyone in the public? Anyone online raising their hand? No. Okay. All right, then. Sam?
I think he's got to unmute himself.
Yeah, Sam, you got to unmute yourself.
Sorry, new technology. Just adhere to the 3-minute rule, that's all. I mean, there's some that get up there that, not often, but they do get overzealous on the 3-minute rule. But other than that, it seems to be working.
Thank you. So could I hear a motion to readopt the public comment guidelines?
So moved.
I had a question. As a result of Sam's comment and my failing memory, you know, there have been times where legislative members have come here with updates that are a little long. So that 3 minutes, I think maybe add at the discretion, or because in a situation like that, it's kind of rude or incomplete to stop them in the middle of a presentation on a legislative issue.
I think that's fair, Clark, and I think most people actually do adhere to the 3-minute guidelines, and I do have discretion. I generally do give when the legislators come in to brief us and so
All right.
forth.
I just want to make
Mr. Chair.
What's
Mr.
up?
Chair.
Yeah.
Would it make sense for us to invite those folks to submit an agenda item before the agenda deadline?
I thought about that, and I think in certain circumstances it might make sense, but if they're relating things that don't necessarily relate to the business of this board, I'm a little more reluctant.
That's a good point.
Okay.
So, did I hear a motion?
Yes.
And did I hear a second?
Jackie made a motion and Clark seconded.
Okay, very good. Any further discussion?
Was the motion to revisit this? Was that the motion?
The motion is to adopt it, but I will be keeping a watchful eye if we do need to revisit it. I think that's
And
very
we're
valid.
voting on what specifically?
The Select Board comment guidelines. And Tom,
Something specific, Nancy? I didn't hear what you
I'm just
said.
looking, are you saying it's one of the sections in here we're voting on?
Public
We're
comment
voting on the
policy.
public comment
Comment.
guidelines.
I don't think I got that one.
And I think with the comment that Jackie made, I'm reminded that we can take up one of these anytime. Doesn't have to be just at the anniversary, right?
Right.
So if in 3 weeks or a month we figure that we've got something new we've got to address, we can.
I actually think there might be sections in the rules and procedures for meetings that might need to be addressed based on what we experience, but we need to have something.
Understood.
Did you have anything, Nancy?
No, I didn't have it, so I'll just abstain.
Okay. Any other comments? All right, so all those in favor of readopting the Select Board public comment guidelines, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? One abstention. Thank you.
I don't know. Nancy needs to know who abstained.
It was Nancy.
Oh, I'm sorry, Nancy abstained.
It's Nancy.
Yep. Next, now that we have reorganized, we will have some openings coming up on our boards and commissions. So Shannon, take it away.
Yeah, so keeping with this theme of policies and procedures and reorganization, so we have open board and commission seats. We have positions open on the Development Review Board, the Historic Preservation Commission, Housing Authority, Board of Listers, Planning Commission, Regional Commission, Energy Committee, and Community Policing Advisory Review Board. So for tonight, not only is to let the public know about these open positions, which are also on the town website, but before we put out social media posts or press release, we need the select board to set a deadline for these applications so that we can inform the public.
All right, do I hear any suggestions as to what our deadline might be? My initial thought is give them till the end of April.
This is a cumbersome process.
It is.
We just need to keep that in mind.
Clark?
You know, in keeping with our previous discussion earlier, I'm looking here at Energy Committee, where it says 7 members. When will we be amending that to reflect the additional 2 folks who I got that we're looking at adding?
I think it's been amended.
I think we can just retype this piece of paper.
Okay, I mean, the document's saying 7, 3 open positions.
So it's 3 open plus 2 youth open, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Right, so that's all I just wanted to make that amendment to those announcements.
So in terms of the timing, I mean, I don't want to go much past the end of the month because, as Ed said, it is a bit of a process for us to do all the interviews and so on and make sure we can get things scheduled, get the people in here. Does anyone have any thoughts in terms of timing?
Well, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Jim.
Just maybe, Shannon, how long does it usually take to, get the various, outlets populated with this information and what's a reasonable turnaround? Is it like a couple of weeks once it's out everywhere, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll have everything out. Jonah's actually out at a conference for the next couple of days, but we'll have everything up on the town's Facebook page. We can have a press release, et cetera, out by the end of this week. So I would say giving people 2 weeks is reasonable.
The time crunch is after that.
Right.
Because we individually need to connect with individuals to have those conversations with them. And I'm not suggesting that it's not something that we should do. I wish we had more time to do it, but it does take a fair amount of time.
So 2 weeks would take us to our next meeting on the 27th. My suggestion of to the end of the month would be 2 weeks and 3 days.
Mr. Chair?
Yep, Jackie.
I'm just doing some very basic counting and seeing that there's 18 open positions on boards and commissions, and based on my limited experience with this process last year, I would be in favor of accepting applications through May 1st to be scheduled for interview, but then to continue to accept applications until we're able to fill all positions.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
There was also conversations in the past years about the level of interview that we provide to the incumbent board or commission member. And so that's a lot of people.
And that's actually a question I kind of wanted to raise with this board. There are typically incumbents that reapply and want to be reappointed. And the policy for the past few years has been that we ask them to sit for an interview again. I can see that from a lot of different ways. My own thoughts, if there are multiple people for a position, say we've got 3 open positions, 6 people apply, I think we should re-interview those people, simply because we need that fresh point of comparison when we're choosing. If we don't have that situation, I'm wondering, do we need to re-interview those people?
Maybe there is a standard review that could be done that the staff could guide us on, where it takes a little less time, and it's a little bit less in-depth.
Right. Perhaps we could submit the questions to them in writing.
I'd like for something to surface if it is a potential conflict between the incumbent and the board.
Right.
And we might be able to suss that out if we had an opportunity.
Sarah, you had a thought?
Do. Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I think, letter of interest and possibly a re-interview every 2 to 3 years might be a better idea. Any thoughts on that from any board members?
Well, that becomes difficult, I think, because some are 3-year terms, there's a 5-year term, there's 2-year term, there's 4-year term.
The idea that we request and insist on receiving the letter of intent, I think needs to be promoted more and then adhered to. I've seen communication come past me that, I'll sit for another year. Well, that's not what a letter of intent really is.
And that is something we ran into last year, and there were several people that wanted to reapply that just missed the deadline, and we said, sorry.
Deadline's a deadline.
That's the deadline, and I think that's very fair, actually.
Tom, I think I basically agree with your notion about multiple applicants for a position. I think that if we have not just a letter saying, hey, I'd like to serve another term, but we should get a letter of interest from everybody with some background on the person, including incumbents. And I think if we get 3 applications for 3 positions, and 2 of them are incumbents that we have experience with. Personally, I don't think we need to interview them. I don't think we need to reappoint them, but I don't think we need to interview them. What I'm concerned about, frankly, and it may be a situation that we would love to have, but if we had, there's 18 open positions. If we had 40 people applying for 18 open positions, I don't think we should interview 40 people. I think we should do some pre-screening based on their letters of interest and their resumes, because that's not a good way to spend our time.
That's fair.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Can the board or committee or commission chair play a more active role? And I'm thinking about the one that, so right now there is a chair sitting at each, or in theory,
No.
in each one of these. And provide that feedback to this group.
The only hesitation I would have there is, what if it's the chair that's up for reappointment?
Then it doesn't work.
Mr. Chairman, one of my passing thoughts is incumbency. The incumbents who seek to reapply, I think their letter should contain or be required to contain their accomplishments and contributions on that board or commission. There are people who hold a position in title only. Participation is questionable. And I think it's important that the incumbent be required to state in their letter of intent what their accomplishments or contributions to that board have been.
Shannon, I believe we do email incumbents to remind them that their term is up. Mm-hmm. Would it be possible to ask them to write a real letter?
Yep. And I think having some of this language would be helpful, because some people might not know exactly what a letter of intent should entail. So I think giving folks some guidance could help.
So, yeah, if they could run through their continued qualifications, hopefully, as well as any work they've done they're particularly proud of or even displeased with.
And work that they hope to do.
And work they hope to do. That's
forward.
great.
Interests, qualifications, and contributions.
Okay.
I think that makes a lot of sense, and that could be the gap in what our information has been leading up until now. A letter of intent, by the way, I can tell you, some members of the public think that means, Dear Stu, our previous town manager, I'll sit for another year.
which we've gotten plenty of.
Yeah.
And, and they should realize, too, that this is what we're trying to get at, is that we don't necessarily want to make them spend their time coming and talking to us if they've been doing a good job.
Just tell us.
And they're the only person interested. I still think that if we have 6 people for 3 positions, we interview all of them. But
I don't necessarily agree with that. Mr. Chair.
If we have 6 reasonably qualified.
I think reasonably qualified, and I don't think you necessarily prejudge. But when I was hiring people for jobs at the Regional Commission, I got 20 applications. I sure as heck didn't interview 20 people.
Right.
I screened their letters of interest and their resumes and picked, the 3 or 4 that were most qualified.
So perhaps we should amend our request of the manager to, when we ask for these, everybody should tell us some of these things. I mean, they clearly won't be able to comment on what they've accomplished being on the board, but they could tell us qualifications, why they feel they're a good fit for this board, so we could have a possibility of.
Mr. Vice Chair?
Ed?
This is in response to what Jim just said, and I totally appreciate that. I work in the private sector, and when I have 20 applicants for one position, I typically don't get the opportunity to speak to 20 people because there are qualifications that stand out early. I wonder how that might be received in this setting where members of the public are potentially committing to volunteer their time and expertise with us. Would it be considered sort of disrespectful, ignoring people to not get the face time with one of us? That is a standard procedure. I don't have a solution, but I wanted to share the opinion.
Jackie?
Yeah. I've also, in my professional life, interviewed folks and had to make those types of decisions, and so I'm sure a number of my colleagues on the board here have also had the experiences. Sometimes the way somebody presents on paper is much different from how they present in person when they're actually going to, how they'll actually be functioning on that committee. So I think there's probably a lot of competing motives here in terms of this board's time spent on it, in terms of public perception and how residents of the town are going to feel about the process, and whether they're an incumbent or not, or if there's concerns about their. So I think it's going to be really challenging to just come up with a rule that we can all agree fits every situation. I think that's kind of the situation that discretion is made for.
I saw Sarah next, Jim.
So I do wonder if we're putting the cart before the horse on this, and maybe we just set a deadline and see what our interest is. And I'm wondering, you're mentioning May 1st, and then see what we get from that, and then go from there? What are the thoughts from the board on that, Mr. Chair?
That's somewhat in line with where my thoughts were going, Sarah, in that we have not been spoiled for choice on a lot of these, which is upsetting, actually.
Yeah, I was going to basically say what Sarah just said. I mean, my concern might be a little bit overplayed because we haven't gotten that many. I don't know if we get 40 applicants for 18 positions, but so that's a bit speculative. So I agree that we should set a deadline, see what comes in, and then figure out how to best handle it.
So is everyone okay with May 1st?
Yes. Sure. Yes.
Shannon, May 1st.
Got it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And we're going to do it as last year. As a group, we'll do the interviews.
Yep.
And we aren't bringing anybody in from the boards to sit with us. A chair with one of the boards and committees to sit with us. We'll keep it just to the select board.
Yes, that's my recommendation. And that's...
One thing I want to point out, I brought up at a meeting last year. Planning Commission, as far back as I can remember, was a 5-person board. Last year, I realized looking online, there were 7 people. And I went back and realized for some reason in June of 2023, they went from 5 to 7 people. But I checked Select Board minutes 6 months before that. I didn't see where the board discussed and voted to increase the number of people on the Planning Commission. And I think it's always been the same way as when you did the CPARB, the Energy Committee, the board discusses how many people they want, how long they'll serve, and then they vote. So right now, you've got 2 extra people on the Planning Commission.
I think I would ask the manager to look into that for us when he gets back.
Is there an issue with the 7-member board?
Yeah.
It's
Are
an
we
issue
looking to solve a
because-
problem?
Sure, if there's no record that the Select Board discussed and voted, if that's how they've done it in the past, that's the issue.
Noted, and it should be looked into. I agree.
So we're looking for just more information on that from the manager's office.
Yep.
Just so that I make sure that I get that correct, you are saying that there was an increase in planning commission members?
You can look at all the town reports. I don't know about this year. All the previous ones said they're a 5-person board, and I know they've had 5 for many years, and I just noticed it looked like extra names. So for some reason, June of 2023, they went from 5 to 7.
Okay. I will
They should
find
also
out.
say how many people are appointed to each one. Some do and some don't, and that should be on there, too.
All right. Manager's report. Shannon.
All right. So we're requesting one action, and Tom, I think the other item we'll put on a subsequent agenda. So this is involving the Vermont Revolving Fund Loan Agreement for the South End project. So it's a request for the board to approve and sign this loan agreement. It was attached to your packet, and I have it here. It's going to require signatures from both the chair and the full select board, and those are identified here. So this attached loan agreement is with the Vermont Bond Bank, and it provides approximately $4 million in a construction loan over a 40-year term, with an approximately $2 million forgiveness of principal at 0% interest for the installation of new water mains to replace existing undersized mains on Jefferson Heights, Merson Street, Crescent Boulevard, and Margaret Lane. The project is known as the South End Project and addresses longstanding water pressure deficiencies at the higher elevations at the south end of town. And the loan is being issued pursuant to a successful bond vote. So the voters decided on this in March of 2023, and it's been planned for several years. So I'm asking for a motion to approve the loan agreement and all associated exhibits, sign the bond and resolution and certificate, and authorize the chairperson and treasurer to sign the loan agreement and exhibits where indicated.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Mr. Chairman, there's a hand up.
I was just going to say, before, pursuant to our policy we just reviewed, this is an action item. And also pursuant to that policy, the public can't speak once the motion's made, so.
I rescind my motion.
I will ask the public for any comment on this particular action item.
Mr. Chairman of the board, no questions for the board first?
I think we're going to have plenty of opportunity, Clerk, once we make the motion, unless,
So we're going to the public first?
yeah.
Mr. Restino's on.
Sam?
Yeah, I mean, our water projects are important, and if there's issues up on Jefferson Heights and Mercer Street, isn't one of those projects happening now? I saw a post on road work that was being done up near Mercer where there was one-lane road work being done. Is that separate of this project or something totally different?
I'm not entirely sure, Sam, but I'm assuming that it is related to this project.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Anything else from the public? All right, now I would hear the motion.
I move the action requested.
I second.
All right, now, anything from the board? Go ahead, Nancy.
Okay, the bond the voters approved in March of 2023 said not to exceed 5.8 million. We're already spending that, right? Isn't that already, that project is already started?
This
Well, I don't know, I'm looking, the $4 million, is that the bond that got approved in 2023, or is that in addition?
No, that's the bond that was approved in 2023.
That's the bond the voters approved? Yeah. So it wasn't 5.8 million, it dropped to 4 million? That seems like a big drop.
Chair, I think, can I?
Jim, if you could be helpful.
Oh, it would be helpful. I think there's the bond, and then there's the means of paying off the bond, and this is a
Right.
loan that's part of the payment of the bond.
That's right. That's correct.
So this is 4 million, 2 million we'll have to pay, correct?
Right, because the other two will be forgiven.
I just wanted to make sure it wasn't 2 million on top of 5.8 million.
No.
I don't see that.
This is,
And 0% interest is
It's 2 million.
pretty good rate. Anything else? Clark?
Related to this, I'm racking my mind. We had a discussion of another project concurrent with this that they were going to cross over in terms of cost and so forth. I'm just wondering how this fits in there. Is this, I can't recall the exact project, but there was another one that they said if we accomplished it, it would be addressing the low pressure issue also at a reduced cost. So I wish I could remember the detail, but that's what pops in mind when I read this. Is this the reduced cost rate, what we're doing, based on that previous project I was told was going to occur? I know it's complete gobbledygook, right?
We have the project, I think, from last year that's going to be up in this area and run down the backside of Monument Avenue, correct?
Well, I know there was one project that was supposed to, by doing it, it was going to help either correct or reduce the cost of this pressure
I think you might be thinking, Clark, of the project that we have to do over on Gore Road, because we have a similar issue there where they're struggling. I'm not 100%, but I think.
Yeah, I don't remember the details. I do remember.
I also, this is ringing a bell, but I don't remember exactly. I wonder if it also is related to, if you're talking about on the south end along Monument Extension, if it's related to like PFOA extension.
I think that's
Right?
what it was.
That makes sense. That would make sense.
By
We
addressing that,
already
it was
planned
gonna
on
fix
doing
this
the work
problem,
up
too.
here. And then with the PFOAs, I don't know if we've got two different,
The PFOA is different. That's coming from a different pot of money. But you know, if you have a problem with water pressure, right, it's going to address extending the lines as well, because you're going to need good pressure to be able to do that. So I think that might be what you're talking about.
Sure.
Clark.
Well, like I said, I remember the presentation said there would be a spillover effect in terms of cost by doing that first project. It would address this problem, but also allow this project to be funded at a lower rate. And I'm just wondering, is this $4 million that we've approved here with the $2 million forgiveness, does that reflect that lower rate? Or can you even tell me if that's the case?
That I will have to do some more research to get you that answer.
Sure. Call Dan, he'll answer. Okay, thank you.
All right, anything else? And all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? We have one abstention. Nancy, thank you.
I don't know if I need to bring this over to you now.
We'll start with the select board. When we pass it down. Anything else, Shannon?
That's it for the actions requested, so I'm going to move into informational. So there's a Select Board public hearing date for a request to rezone 1033 Willow Road, adjacent to the Apple Hill subdivision. pursuant to a settlement agreement between the town and entities controlled by Thomas and Michael Malone. The Select Board agreed to review the Malone's request to rezone 1033 Willow Road from the Rural Conservation Zoning District to the Rural Residential Zoning District. Such a review must be undertaken pursuant to state law, which requires a public hearing before the Planning Commission and the Select Board. The Planning Commission conducted a public hearing regarding the request on January 22nd, 2026. After their hearing, the Planning Commission approved a motion recommending that the Select Board deny the request to rezone the parcel. The Chair has set the date of the Select Board public hearing for May 11th, 2026. We also have a public notice that was in the banner on April 9th about this hearing. So that's number one. And then organizational meeting items. So this is, again, related to the theme of reorganization tonight. In general, it's best practice to announce and confirm annually at the Select Board's organizational meeting the following items. So this is just for information for everyone in the public. The time and place of regularly scheduled Select Board meetings are the second and fourth Mondays of every month at 6 p.m. at the Bennington Fire Facility, multipurpose room, third floor, 130 River Street, right here. The locations for posting Select Board meeting minutes are the Bennington Town Office. We have a bulletin board right when you walk into the town office. Also the lobby of the Bennington Police Department and at the Four Corners kiosk. So those are the three areas where we post all of the warnings. The newspaper of record for public notices is the Bennington Banner. And another topic for informational, the Economic Development Committee now has a webpage. So Jonah Spivak, our communications coordinator, has created a webpage for the Economic Development Committee, and the committee's agendas, minutes, reports, work plans, et cetera, will be posted on this webpage. And then just as a follow-up, my monthly report for housing, community, and economic development and the permitting and planning report are attached to your packet.
Very good. Thank you. Upcoming agendas. Our next meeting, we'll be discussing possibly spending some of our opiate settlement money. Do you have anything else, Shannon?
For the next meeting?
Yep.
So you mentioned the opioid settlement. Well, actually, this other theme that I had talked to you about earlier, Mr. Chair, is there is as far as community development block grants through the Vermont Community Development Program, most of them have been underway for some time, but the newest one is a planning grant. We've had multiple meetings about it, and it was related to the merger of Cornerstone, the new entity called Cornerstone Housing Partners. So that was, the Select Board passed a resolution for them to apply for community development planning grant, which was awarded. And so now we just need to have a resolution for the Select Board to approve moving forward with that grant agreement, which they've already been awarded. So that can be on the next agenda.
And I'm sure we'll come up with more in the next 2 weeks. Okay. Other business. Nancy.
Sure. I'm requesting that the meeting that's supposed to be held this Thursday from 8:30 to 9:30 at Union South be canceled and scheduled to be on a Select Board agenda. I'd like to know when we'll be having a special public meeting to discuss H-181. Other towns in Bennington County I've seen do have meetings scheduled. At the last meeting, Dan said the bids came in higher than expected for the pathways down past Hannaford by 67A. We need to have a discussion and a board as the public to find out where exactly are we financially. Pennies for Parks program, the skateboard park. I see they've started the work down there for the bathrooms, we have to all, again, get on the same page and understand how the money for pennies for parks is being used. Melissa sent me an excellent detailed breakdown of the dollars. We need to get that on the town website like ARPA money, so people can see that our taxpayers are paying about $103,000 extra a year to fund it, so everybody can see where the money's going. And we need to understand who is paying what when it comes to work that the town is doing. The $25,000 for the bathrooms, the town won't have to pay. We have that money left, and I'll explain that when we get it on an agenda. And I'd like posted on the town website in the next 3 days, information about exactly how much money our local taxpayers are supposed to pay to the Ben High in the upcoming budget year. And I'd like to see it broken down by category. I had questions on this at the budget meeting back in January, and I'd like to know, everybody be able to see what are our taxpayers supposed to pay.
Jim?
I think the only thing that I might just offhandedly say is it's interesting to note that the bike path bids for the last section of the so-called Ninja project that was recently referenced came in significantly lower than expected.
Thank you. Jackie?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have two things. The first is just my final chance to remind you all that tomorrow is voting day for the school board for their updated budget. So please get out and make your voice heard. Voting will be in downstairs in this building, at the firehouse, or up in North Bennington, I believe standard hours. I don't actually know the hours off the top of my head. 10 to 7. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And my second thing is just a reminder that Green Up Day is coming Saturday, May 2nd, fantastic Vermont tradition where we all get out and lend a little bit of our time volunteering to keep our beautiful state beautiful. Turns out last year we collected 14,307 discarded tires across the state. It's shocking. So please participate in that. You can call the town office by Thursday, April 30th to get all of the details on how you can participate and where to pick up your little green trash bags and do your part to pitch in and keep the state beautiful. Thank you.
Hi. A couple of things. On a personal note, I won't be here for the May 11th meeting, so I unfortunately won't be able to attend, but depending on what's going on, I'll try to sign in remotely, depending where I am on the Danube River. I don't know. The other thing, and folks have been asking me, and I honestly can't answer it, but I would like to know in terms of Act 181, if we could get kind of a briefing on Tier 2 and Tier 3 properties within the town, how that's impacting. It seems that's the greatest bit of consternation in here, and from my own personal ignorance, I can't see where we have a lot of Tier 3 type stuff, but I'm not in a position to give people a straight answer. So if we could give some input to not just myself, but the public on Tier 2 and 3 impacts in our town. I know a lot of towns are putting in proclamations from their select boards and their position on this Act 181. So I think it would be a good service for the people of Bennington to know how it's going to impact on us, so they won't think we're being remiss or negligent. If it's something that's going to impact us, I think we need to make that known. And if it's not, we also need to make that known. Great. That's all for me.
A couple of quick things for me, noting that we're 40 minutes past agenda time. To clarify what Jackie said, it is the elementary school budget that is being voted for the second time tomorrow. Thank you, and thank you to Mr. Payne for being here tonight to spell that out. I wanted to congratulate Vicki Lamprin and thank her for all the work that she does across the town. She's being recognized, as we heard earlier, by her colleagues on the Williamsack River organization. I am not interested in rehashing budgets and projects that we've already voted on and approved and are in the works, so please consider that. And I like the new order, but I'm going to call you Tom. That's all I got.
I appreciate that. The only thing I was also going to talk about Green Up Day, but I would like to issue a challenge to my fellow board members. I am going to commit to pick up garbage on Green Up Day. So if you could all let us know at the next meeting if you're going to be able to make it, and maybe where you'll be. So thanks very much.
Thank you. That's a good idea.
All right, so I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
A second, please.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you very much, and for all of you in the audience who stuck it out with us. Appreciate it.